I'd like to call to order the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night for April 3rd, 2018. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's a sign-in sheet for public comment that our manager is getting right now. However, even though he's taking that list, there'll be another list there if you want to get up during the meeting. So I'm going to open up the meeting for citizens' remarks and comments. This is on any municipal item. We're going to ask for a 5-minute time period for comments. That is to keep the meeting running efficiently, please. So we'll call up first Georgiana Woodhall.
Good evening. Realizing that I just have 5 minutes, I'm going to skip from this. This article was in the Tribune Review, Westmoreland, on Thursday, February 15th of 2018. I'm just going to read the title on the front page. Natural gas driller shakes up things with Trib. Huntley and Huntley shows reporters how it performs seismic tests across the region. Some residents have concerns. There has been some concern of residents of several communities regarding the testing, which officials say is safe. Monroeville and Oaklawn placed rules on the practice last year. Some people have said workers from the company have trespassed on their property. One of the residents is Georgiana Woodhall, myself here, who lives on Route 130. The most recent incident was in January, but she said they trespassed in June. She wrote Geokinetics a letter then and filed an incident report with the police last month, when her cousin spotted a man who they claim was on Woodhall's property. Doug Garrett, project manager for Cougar Land Services, said the worker was on the road's right-of-way. In my system, her property shows up, no permit, so we don't go on it, he said. Cougar Land Services was hired by Geokinetics to do permit work for the project. Paul Burke, vice president and general counsel for Huntley and Huntley, Inc., issued a statement regarding the alleged trespassing, which said in part, recognizing the concerns of the property owner, technicians have avoided accessing the right-of-way in that area since that time, and there are no plans to return for any reason. Garrett said the company does advance notification of projects through municipality and reaches out to landowners by phone, door hangers, that include notice of testing, a phone number people can call with questions or concerns. And there's an 800 number on here. I'm going to give this article, submit this. And I also, on Friday, between 4 and 5, I looked out my door and there was a man pounding down with an answer about 4 feet high, putting a, looked to be some sort of geophone across the street on the Haymaker Village side. He then crossed over, trespassed on the property, my cousin's property, along the mailbox area, crossed Forbes Road, went up to my corner lot. This corner lot where he was pounding down, when he, I'm sorry, he did, that was, let me go back. He crossed onto Forbes Road and headed down in a direction towards Trapper Commerce Park. I quickly got on the phone and I called the police. Told them that Geokinetics was trespassing and can they send an officer. This is the second time of trespassing. This is the second time an officer has come to my front door. And I just want to make it clear that I've looked over the settlement agreement. I have also looked over the seismic testing ordinance. I was never notified that they were going to go on to, had any intention of going on to my lot on Forbes Road. That property connects to the house in the middle of the driveway to that first house going up Haymaker. I went that evening and I went up and there was nothing on there. There was no geophone. There was no markings in the grass. So this had to occur after hours. When the police officer got her, and as I said, this is the second time that both police officers, the first and second time, both said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. There's nobody here. We don't see anybody. I don't see any truck in the parking lot. And also, they didn't know what a geophone was. Now, in your seismic testing ordinance and throughout these two documents, it specifically states that this group of individuals, geokinetics, the people that they hire, Pathfinder was the first trespasser, are going to be working with the municipality in Monroeville. If you have two police officers come to your door and say they know nothing about any of this, and I guess I was a little rude when I said to the officer, when he said, I don't know anything about this, I don't know about geokinetics or geophones, I said, well, you need to educate yourself. So I'm asking the members of council to educate our police department so that they know what's going on with this ordinance and with this agreement. I'm going to turn this in. I called Mr. Little, and I asked him, I explained it, and I asked him to get in touch with Cougar. I don't know if you've done that or not.
Yeah, I called, not Cougar, I called Geokinetics.
Okay.
In the same, a month ago, the same thing, he said he was going to look into it and see who was out there on that Friday.
Okay, because, I have pictures that I obviously can't, some that I can't, I want them looked at by a third party, and I can assure you that these pictures are going to speak for themselves when I get them back, okay? And if there's a pimple on that man's face, all of Monroeville is going to know about it. And also, I'd just like to jump over to the fact that, and I'm only representing myself, okay, only going to rep myself as a member of the Planning Commission. I'm not here for anybody else. But I know that in the past that before Planning Commission meetings, and I know it's optional through the Municipal Planning Code, to post on a utility pole when there's some activity, when there's a rezoning going on. And I know that when these rezonings took place in the past, whether it was a big box, no matter what it was, that always there was a site plan, there was a stormwater management plan, there was a traffic plan, either for a big box or, and I can use one example, Haymaker Point. I mean, they came prepared. So you knew ahead of time what was going on. You could attend a Planning Commission meeting. But that's not the case. I've been hearing from Mr. Yugas that this is optional. We don't have to do that. But if you want to be transparent, I'm asking you to post it for the Planning Commission, at least on a poll, because it's fair to the residents, taxpayers. Thank you.
Lois Drumheller.
Hello. It's been more than 2 months since members of Sustainable Monroeville have been before this council to submit our comments and our well-referenced, fact-based recommendations on oil and gas. We submitted to you to ask for your guidance, but we're trying to guide you at the same time, the ordinance that will eventually need to be passed for safe oil and gas operations. So far, this municipality has achieved a conditional use on zoning on your table 201 to amend that for our oil and gas operations in the M2 industrial zone. That we know was done, that we appreciate. Nothing further has been established, though, as to how this shall be done. And we asked already at the presentation of that, of giving you the electronic copy, of trying to get that to the Planning Commission. We asked at that point that we could meet to discuss further with local government agents involved in establishing this specific criteria for oil and gas. This is why it was important last month to find out that the Planning Commission was also given our recommendations, so we're glad about that. To do nothing further, though, at this point leaves the municipality, frankly, vulnerable to unsafe criteria and practices with just the Table 201 conditional use. Nothing to go along with it, stating hours of operation, what type of pre- and post-testing, any type of hazmat conditions, any specific things to test for, either in the volatile organic compounds or the water below the surface, and whether or not there's any type of mine drainage, and all those things, and in addition to that, the people who live in that vicinity, hopefully not too far from that. We also know that when you did propose, the zoning ordinance last month, and of course this was withdrawn from consideration. Before you decided to withdraw it, we know that This was reviewed by the Allegheny County Economic Development, and they did review it, and they did make recommendations. Such things as the need to define what the term well meant. Because in the accompaniment to 1443 is Ordinance 2437, which really does address oil wells, but it doesn't really specify anything that is an update of that term. So they said themselves, the county said to you, please define this. And then they also pointed out some other language that did not make sense. So there is much work ahead. I think everybody knows that, for council, for the Planning Commission, and maybe not in that order. But to evaluate and to recommend what we do outside of just having a table 201 change. So right now, we'd like to establish, as a group of individuals, our grassroots organization has been up here. Sustainable Monroeville would like to meet with whatever parties for further discussion and where this should begin. I know everyone is moved up tonight's meeting because of priorities at the end of what would be your Thursday night meeting. But we want to leave you with the question, is it the opinion of this council that the Planning Commission would be that first stop? And we know you're getting ready to go to the ALOM, Allegheny League of Municipalities Conference. For all I know, because I did look at the tentative education topics, well, first of all, let me start with where we should start in terms of trying to work as a grassroots citizen group. Shall it be the Planning Commission? Shall it be?
I think the most appropriate would be for you to, either you or a representative of Sustainable Monroeville or a group of you, to set up a meeting with our municipal manager, Mr. Little. I think that'd be the best starting point.
And would this be to decide who the agents to meet with would be?
Or to discuss your ideas as far as formulating an ordinance.
Well, the guides that we gave to you, the 11-page document, should go pretty far into telling you where the guidance is coming from. For instance, that proposed ordinance that you withdrew for consideration had nothing on air quality measurement. And I can tell you that our friends in Westmoreland County have a citizens group. They may be a little larger because they've dealt with this issue for a lot longer period of time. And they have approached the county commissioners to see if part of their hazmat reaction to any blowouts, anything associated with the return of frac fluids in the process of oil and gas development, and release of what you can't see by the naked eye, but is volatile organic compounds. Any of those things that could be tested would be tested with a particular way of a canister. I think you have to think of a tube of blood that has a vacuum in it, and you withdraw, and it goes right into the vacuum. Part of the hazmat process can do that.
I ask you a question. Some of those issues you're discussing, for example, blowout and the hazmat and so forth, isn't that addressed under the state law?
I don't know, is it?
I believe it is.
How so?
Pardon me?
How so?
What do you mean, how so?
How?
Well, the state has laws, too, against this.
And I'm assuming that you are referring to one in particular. Do you know which area this lies under? Because I do know that there are county plans, and probably Mr. Ratcher can explain.
Well, I can't cite it for you. However, if you'd be willing to look it up.
If I'd be willing to look it up?
I'm not the one that has an issue with it. You're the one that has the issue with it.
Well, Mr. Wills, I think maybe...
Is this in order?
Well, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay,
pulling it
thank
back in. So, you've had your comment period, and I think you had some valuable information.
I've had some questions,
if I could just
too.
finish real quick.
Yeah, I've had some questions.
You've had your comment period, and but I think, the best first step would be for you to meet with Mr. Little, and perhaps if you can coordinate with one of these other organizations to come with you, and just so, we're willing to take all the information we can get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you may find some of this out at the conference. The ALOM conference has a tentative topic. I'd like to ask whether or not, well, first of all, normally 2 members of council went, and I'm not sure if it's only 2 members of council, to ask somebody to report back on this. How many people actually are going? Numbers? 1, 2?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
How many people are going to the ALOM
Yes.
conference?
5.
Yes.
I am not.
I
Five?
am.
I am.
Okay, there are 5 members. Okay, this is the reason why you didn't have a quorum. Okay. Well, would you happen to know whether or not oil and gas on this very important the conference that it involves every municipality in Allegheny County being the circle that's being encroached by the oil and gas industry, whether any of that information is coming up in topic on oil and gas? Have you seen where that will come up? Do you have the intention of bringing it up if it doesn't?
Well, bring it up where?
At the conference.
There's classes.
Yeah, there are classes. There's also groups of people who are on panels, and I'm assuming that you have a lot of interaction there. I know there's a lot of social interaction. There would be plenty of time to bring this up. Whether or not it's the official way, you're there with everybody in the county, and it's the perfect time to bring it up.
You're absolutely right. It's a good topic to speak about, and that's the perfect place to talk about it because there's a lot of lawmakers there and a lot of people from different communities that can also have insight to these types of things. But to answer your initial question, I think the best step for Sustainable Monroeville would be to set up a meeting with Mr. Little, and like I said, if you could bring an agent from one of these other organizations, that'd be very much appreciated.
Sure, I
Great.
would do.
Thank you.
I would
And
suggest
that's
to
your
do that
5
in this next month. I think it's a little premature in this
We're at 9
month.
minutes. We have a lot of people that want to speak. You're at 9 minutes, and
And would you do
Thank you
one
for
more
your time.
thing? And would you bring us back a report on what you may find out on the topic of
We
oil
can
and gas
definitely-
from your conference?
we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Greg Cornians?
I'm presenting for Mr. Zakaitis.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So, yeah, sorry about that, sir. We'll get to you later on, okay? Tom Henningsen.
Good evening. My name is Tom Henningsen. I'm a resident of Monroeville. I live on Maple Crest Lane. My wife and
Can you
I...
speak into the mic? I can't hear you.
Just face forward. That's fine.
Okay, well,
You're fine. You're good.
we'll screw up the volume. I have a cold, so maybe...
You're fine.
My wife and I live on Maple Crest Lane. We have 2 houses there. One house is our residence. The other house is used as an accessory building. Our main house has an address that is mixed up with a farmhouse that's next door. The farmhouse is about 100 years old. It has been standing empty for about 2 years. Now it's undergoing some kind of reconstruction. A couple of weeks ago, I found out that the water and sewer account for that farmhouse is actually listed to our address. I called up the municipal authority and talked to them about it, and they told me that it was not something they could change until Monroeville updated their addresses. So that's kind of a frightening prospect that if the utility accounts next door are not being paid, they could actually end up as liens on our property. Now, the problem we are talking about here dates back about 4 years when Allegheny County approached Monroeville to have them update their address system. In the process, the road I live on was named Maple Crest Lane. And Monroeville also changed some of the addresses on the road. But they did not change, they did not inform the residents whose addresses had been changed. I only found out about it about 3 years ago when I was talking to county officials about something else. So in good faith, the neighbors can actually still be using their old address without knowing it has been changed.
Well, Tom, you bring up it seems like a pretty straightforward issue. I mean, Mr. Hugas, could you set up a time with Mr. Henningsen and kind of get this all ironed out with his address and the properties?
Absolutely.
And then we can do whatever we need to do with the municipal authority. They are
Mayor.
separate entities.
Mayor, we're
But
working on that.
you already know about
Paul
this?
and I are working on that.
Okay, you already know about, okay.
Yeah.
I thought this was new
You were
information.
supposed to receive a letter?
You did not, because I have not written it yet.
Oh, okay,
But you're aware of this, Mr. Wilson?
yes,
Oh, okay.
very aware.
Very good.
For the last 4 years.
Well, let me put a couple of, and I appreciate that, but let me put a couple of things into the record. I've been talking to staff about this for 3 years now. I have a file here that I would like to enter into the municipal record. It's not just that our address is gummed up, so to speak, but it's the whole address system on Maple Crest Lane that is the problem. Maple Crest Lane is about a third of a mile long, and there are about 8 to 11 active addresses on it, depending on exactly how you count. The house that's located on Logan's Ferry Road is named 3890. The houses located behind it are named A, B, C, D. The problem we are talking about now occurred when we put in a house that was located between C and B. Now what do you do? That house was built 17 years ago. It has all permits, occupancy permit, everything, except it didn't have an address. And because we were using it as an accessory building, it really didn't matter to us until the Allegheny County stepped in and said, look, we need an address here. So what you have is, so now even if you inform the people about what their addresses are, you have an inflexible system. Next to us is an empty lot. Now if somebody decides to build a house there, now you have to move all the addresses again. So it's fairly obvious that what you really need to do is put in a numbered system so you have flexibility. There's a fair amount of vacant land around Maple Crest Lane, so there's a number of other buildings that can be put in. 3 years ago, the county wrote an email to the staff asking that this system be updated. And part of it says, that's the county, we too have requested of Monroeville that they assign Maple Crest Lane addresses to all the houses for 911 purposes. See, it's not a good idea to have a road that's a third of a mile long and have Logan's Ferry Road addresses on it. You end up kind of in a double situation if you call 911. Yeah, the address is Logan's Ferry Road, but the house is not located on Logan's Ferry Road. Mr. Harvey has touched on that a couple of times. The first one was in March 2016, 2 years ago, recommending that at least the numbers be listed. Okay. So,
Well,
what
if
do
you could hand
say-
in that packet of information,
Yes,
and we could
the packet of
we can certainly
information.
return it back
Yeah.
to you after we use it or make copies of it. But that seems like something that we need to get ironed out.
Yeah, the problem
We
is.
have the packet, Mayor.
Oh, you already have the packet? Okay.
Several copies.
Yeah, but.
Okay.
the
Can we
question-
just change,
Here.
can we change numbers on one street?
Do you have your
You
own
can.
copy of this?
This
You don't
issue
need
came
this back?
about years ago. Mr. Henningsen brought it up. There's some logistics tied to it. We did receive a notification from the county because of the issue. We did name it Maple Crest Lane as well as many other private roads to the municipality. We just changed names of roads. We did not issue any new number system to it. Now, the issue becomes is that if you, and I don't disagree with what Mr. Henningsen's saying. I agree from an emergency services standpoint, it should be addressed to Maple Crest Lane. But the issue is you have to issue unique numbers to every new address now. So everybody on Maple Crest Lane, A through G, all has to get unique numbers. So they'll probably get a 3-digit number to Maple Crest Lane. So therefore, they have to change their license, their utility bills, their checkbooks, everything that gets mailed to that address has to be changed. And it's not always popular to do that without everybody's agreement to it.
All right.
Well, just one more statement. The current address cannot be entered into the modern computer systems, as an example, because it's not a type of address that's approved by the U.S. Postal Service. So when we sit in our bank and they say, now, these days we need a street address. See, the whole federal system is changing. It's becoming much more focused on street addresses. We need to know exactly where we live. My driver's license is in a P.O. box. Can't have that anymore. But the address I currently have can also not be entered.
I don't disagree, but.
We have to figure out how to do it, or get
the
everybody
elec-
else on board
The
with
elected
doing it.
body, none of you that were sitting here at the time, chose not to do it.
Okay,
They didn't want to change the addresses. That's why it was never changed.
all right. Well, let's maybe look into this a little bit further. It sounds like you and Mr. Wilson have been having some discussions.
We have discussed it.
If maybe you can continue those and then get back to Mr. Henningsen and then see what we have to do next. Okay.
Good idea. No.
Deanna Di Piazza. Welcome.
I'm here.
Can you
very-
state your name?
Say your name for the record.
Sorry,
Yeah, sorry.
Dr. Dina Di Piazza. I'm here about the property on Fox Plan Road that was up for sale. And we, as concerned, there's a bunch of us here, residents and business owners. I have a business on that road, and we're just concerned about.
Yeah, Doc, 1 second. This is on our agenda for this evening.
Yes.
And it's a public hearing item.
Yes.
Which, once we get to that section, then yes, you can talk, because that way then you're,
I'm nervous back there trying to get.
well, now you're
these
warmed up,
questions.
you're warmed up a little bit. This is a dry run. You're warmed up. We'll get to you soon. But that way it's all on the record, and we're doing everything the right way, and then your comments really, really count for that matter. Okay.
It's a trial
So,
run, now it'll be easier next time.
all right, so, folks, I don't have anyone else to sign in. Would any other Monroeville resident like to address council? I would. Ladies before gentlemen.
She had her hand up, actually.
And miss, if you could just sign in on that sheet, and then if you could, and you could state your name for the record,
Yeah.
and that you live in Monroeville.
Hello, Sandy Astoria. I live in Monroeville.
Good.
I live on Evergreen Drive. I live in Mr. Wilson's ward. I have a question.
Babysit for me.
All right, Sandy.
Yeah, right down
Go
the
ahead.
street. He may be able to answer some of these questions, but mainly I have a question for the solicitor. I just spoke to, I was asking a bunch of different questions because I did get a letter about the fracking that I was notified.
seismic
And,
Wait, what
Seismic.
fracking?
No fracking.
I'm
No
sorry,
fracking.
testing. I'm not real versed about it as
Okay.
those people are, so
Okay.
forgive me, and I'm a little nervous too, so
That's
I'm not
okay.
used to
You're
this.
doing just fine.
And so I did speak to a person on council of another town because they have more experience in this. I was informed, okay, I have two different issues. One, I have a property on a state road, and I was told that the state gave the right to do testing on a 33 feet of right-of-way, and my building's only 8 feet from the state road. So my question is, how do we know if our building is in the right-of-way? Like, can they come on the sidewalk to do testing? Okay, because they told me, oh, well, they can just do testing if it's in the 33 feet. So is it from the center of the road, or like where is that area that they have permission because the state gave them permission? That's one. Because you kind of need to be a surveyor to even know your rights, and that's kind of unreasonable. And we don't want to be walking out in the middle of the highway doing measurements anyways. So I think that this would really affect everybody in Pitcairn because that's a state road. The other thing is, what are the state roads? You know, a lot of the buildings, like mine, has a really old foundation. The only place that we didn't replace our foundation and put in a 6-inch concrete wall was in the front. So what happens, they do this, and my wall starts leaking. Okay, do I call Huntley and Huntley? Do I call Monroeville? Do I call Pennsylvania because they permitted it? Do I call Gray Company? Do I call, Geokinetics? Like, who do I call? Because all of a sudden, I don't even need to get a notice because the state had the right of way, and all of a sudden, I have water the next time it rains coming in my foundation.
So 3 questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Rattree,
So I'm going to hand off the first question about the right-of-way to Mr. Yugas, because I'm a lawyer because I can't do math. That's why he's an engineer. He can explain better the measurements and all that stuff.
The structure you speak of, is it in Monroeville?
It's on Route 130.
Is it in Monroeville, though?
No.
It's not.
It's in Route 130. It's actually in Trafford.
It's in Trafford?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, because
But
I
it's
could
on a
speak better
state
if I knew where it was at. You're telling me it's in Trafford.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's on Route 130, yeah.
I'll give you general terms then. 33-foot right-of-way means it's 16 and a half feet from the center line of the road to the edge of the right-of-way. So you take the 33 feet divided by 2, you go from the center line of the road 16 and a half feet, and that'll give you your right-of-way.
Okay. So my question mainly was, who do you call if you have a problem? So this affects me and everybody else that's on state roads in
Okay, I'm handing that
Monroeville
one
or
back.
anywhere else.
Okay, I'll take
Because
this.
you have all those layers
Yeah,
there.
so the state issues a permit on state roads.
Yeah.
And there is a permittee, there is a named party who applied for that permit, was issued that permit, has certain responsibilities with the state. Probably is geokinetics,
So the permittee,
yes.
okay.
Now, if the property's in Monroeville, and you were to call Monroeville, we would certainly assist you in getting to the proper party.
Okay. For anybody else that, because,
And hopefully
Yes,
Trafford would
anybody,
do the same
right,
thing for
yeah,
you.
and I'm sure Trafford would.
okay. All right, well, there's other people. I was also looking on Monroeville property because I don't know where the state roads are in Monroeville. You know, I know 22, obviously, I know 48, obviously, but there's other state roads or state-maintained roads as well.
130.
130, okay.
Northern Pike.
Northern
Northern
Pike,
Pike.
see, I would never know that.
There are also
And
county
I
roads.
grew
There are
up and
actually
lived
3.
here, and I would have never known that Northern Pike was a state road.
Yeah, and there's county roads too,
So,
that we have no control over.
right.
So,
So how do we know this? Is there a map that says what
I
has
believe-
the right-of-ways?
I believe there's a map on our website that will
Yes.
establish local roads, state, county, private, turnpike roads on it.
There is.
But ultimately,
Okay, no, but I'm talking about what has the right-of-way for this testing, and
Well-
what is the footages?
The right-of-ways are going to vary depending on the roadway system.
That's correct.
I mean,
Because like, I'm close to, then I come to my house.
like Route 22 has variable right-of-ways to it. Route 286 has variable right-of-ways. So every road could have a unique right-of-way with
Oh, 286, yeah, there's another
new
one.
standard subdivisions are 50-foot right-of-ways.
50 foot?
In newer plans are 50-foot. Older
So is
subdivisions
that
are 33.
from the middle of the road, or
No.
is that from the side of the road?
No, 50-foot's the width of it, so it'd be half of it would be 25 feet from the center line of the road.
From the center line of the road.
Right.
So if they go from there to the side, like they could put it, even if your house is like right smack against it, which is unusual, grant you. But if your house was right there, they could put something right against your house.
Well,
If
talk
your
in
house,
general
if
terms.
your house comes up toward the right-of-way, it could be in close proximity to
Yeah.
your house.
Well,
yeah.
some places,
Right.
like in Plum, they're real close, those older houses are real
Right,
close to
yes,
the
yes.
road there, to 380.
Yes.
You know, okay. That answers my question about Route 130, because Route 130, there's a lot of properties there that are real close. So, okay, like they're within 8 feet.
and ultimately, if you have any kind of issue with this or questions, start with the municipality you're dealing with, because if you were to call Monroeville, they could tell you, oh, well, that's a state road, that's a county road, we could point you in the right direction, we have staff that could do that. And I would assume, and I would hope that the other surrounding municipalities would do that as well. If it was a Plum issue, if you contacted Plum, they could help you out and get you in the right direction, Trafford and so forth.
Well, I think a lot of people are concerned about it as well, because we don't even know where they have the rights to even put these things. And then they're coming up and they're putting them where they don't have the rights to put them. So I think that was a
where?
concern over the sacred holiday that we just had, where people on the internet they were scared because they're like, well, we didn't even get a notice. And that was one thing that I noted, because I did get a notice and I was concerned. And so I'll go to my piece now. And one of the questions that I had is, do we have a map in Monroeville of where the underground lakes are? Does anybody know of a map where underground lakes are?
Underground lakes as in what, ma'am?
Underground water tables that they formerly considered lakes.
No, we do not. You'd have to go to the DEP.
Okay. Did anybody do any testing to give to these people? Or did anybody do this?
Do what?
Do any testing on underground lakes? to give to these people before they allowed the seismic testing?
Wouldn't that be a DEP issue,
That
Paul?
wouldn't be our issue.
Okay, did DEP allow anything, talk to these people about anything where they're doing this seismic testing?
How would we know
Yeah, we
that?
wouldn't know
Yeah.
that.
Okay, how about mine safety? Did they have to discuss anything with mine safety?
Again,
Okay,
you're talking state issues.
Federal.
okay.
And
All right,
federal
I just wanted to know, you guys don't know. All right, that's,
Correct.
okay, right. All right, the reason being is I do know. I got our house, the house that I was raised in is the house that I live in, and we bought it from the original builder. My parents did, and 16 feet underneath my foundation, probably yours too, Tom,
No,
is a
no.
lake,
A lake?
a lake.
16 feet down.
Yeah, 16 feet under our
Do you
foundation.
have a lifeboat?
And, huh?
Do you have a lifeboat?
Exactly. And I did get a notice in my mail
From whom?
from the testing company.
Oh, okay. I saw you have a sign that says no trespassing, no testing. Well, that
Yeah.
should stop them, though.
Well,
I
it should.
believe- Am I right?
It should.
Well, Sandy, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I was told there wasn't a limit at this point. I don't know, I'm new.
But no, but thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hopefully
and
that gets
so,
you in the right direction with
in that
things.
case, if they're going to claim my house for eminent domain, though, I wasn't sure if Evergreen might be one of those roads. I want to know who to contact to get full price for my house when it falls into the lake.
Well, any questions
So-
with Monroeville, always start with Monroeville. Whether you
Okay.
call your council person or me or
Okay.
the city manager.
Well, Tom,
start
you
there.
best check into that.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Tammy, see me after if you can.
All right.
Please, thanks.
All right, folks, I'll leave the floor open for anyone from Monroeville that would like to address council. State your name for the record, sir, and that you live in Monroeville.
Sure, absolutely. I live in Monroeville. My name is David Mintz. You all know me well. I just want to make two comments. One, basically, on Sandy, right? It was just up here. I know she had a lot of questions about rights of way. I just want to kind of add on to her questions. It's just while she was talking, it came to me that regardless of the rights of way, let's say that, if I understood right, she said her property was about 8 feet from the road. Okay, so let's say, regardless, let's say that the company that's doing seismic testing is within their rights of way, and everything's correct. But if her property is 8 feet from the road, we still have in our agreement of November 22nd that no seismic testing shall be done. I mean, I can read it to you. Within 50 feet, we know this, of any. Here it is. This is Section 10, testing. All vibroses or wake drop operations shall be conducted a minimum distance of 50 feet from any building, which shall mean a structure built for the support, shelter, or enclosure of persons or personal property of any kind. And then, of course, no explosive charge test shall be conducted within 300 feet of any building, water well, or underground hazardous waste storage disposal site. So even if somebody was in,
Yeah, you're correct, actually. And I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about the actual geophone placement. So you're
Right.
absolutely right about the ordinance. So yes, they would have to follow that.
And that
Mayor,
building
they-
was not in
we-
Monroeville.
But we keep
Right,
saying,
Sandy?
the
building you're
state, on
talking
a
about,
state
that wasn't
road,
Monroe.
she's talking about, we're out of it. Our agreement,
One second, folks. One second.
our agreement doesn't apply to state roads.
well, let me.
That's right.
Can I clarify that with
Yeah,
our
Mr. Mintz,
solicitor?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So let's say it is, this is a good clarification point then. If it is a state road and their truck is literally, let's say, 10 feet from her house, does our agreement with Geokinetics of November 22nd, does it still apply? Can they be, let's say, 8 or 10 feet from her house and do the testing if it's a state road rather than a Monroeville road?
Well, as a practical matter, how that happens is we call up the state and tell the state that they're violating our ordinance. And they tell us they're the state and they don't have to abide by it.
Is this something that's already happened, or you just figured
Oh,
that's what?
It happens all the time in other areas. Mr. Yugas can
Right.
probably tell you about it.
But it
We have the
hasn't
same
happened for
problem.
this, no.
It hasn't happened yet, but
It
you're
hasn't
saying,
with this, no.
most likely in your legal opinion, if they were 10 feet from her house on a state road, the state would tell us, well, your agreement of November 22nd with Geokinetics does not apply in this case.
It means nothing to us because we're the state and you're a subordinate entity.
So this agreement is only for
Monroeville.
Monroeville roads?
Yes.
No, we
Oh.
think it's for all roads, but
Okay.
we would never be able to enforce that with the state.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make. As
Right.
a practical matter, the state
So everybody
exercises their
needs to
supremacy
know.
every chance they
We
get.
would certainly try.
Yeah,
Right.
And we want to know about these
So
things.
if Sandy called and said, this is happening in front of my house 10 feet away, you would call the state, and hopefully we would do our best to keep it from happening, but...
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah.
Right.
We would call PennDOT, who
Right.
issues the permit. I think PennDOT issues their right-of-way permits, correct?
Okay, so this is important for everybody to know then, you know, even though maybe a lot of people don't know, wherever you live or wherever you have a property, what kind of road this is ahead of time. We need to know. I mean, everybody should find out.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of road you live on or your property exists on.
Sure.
So that we
Absolutely.
can kind of get ahead of this. So
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't forget, it's on the website.
Yeah, so everybody should do that. My other question was, and this is for the benefit of a Monroeville resident that had a question, on our same agreement that I keep talking about with geokinetics, Section 7, energy level restrictions. There's letters A and B I just want to refer to. Letter A says geokinetics shall lay out all testing source locations, vibrator source sweep frequency, and drive levels, explosive charge size, and depth or other geophysical sources, so that no structure shall be subject to PPV greater than 0.35 inches per second. And then letter B says, using industry standard equipment and techniques, the licensed engineer or geologist required to be provided by geokinetics in Section 5 above shall monitor and record during operations all pertinent locations to ensure compliance with the maximum PPV established herein. So my question for that is, let's say that seismic testing with the vibrosis trucks is done regardless of all the other details we're talking about. It's near to someone's house, and they want to know, since it is being recorded by an engineer, and they want to know, well, what was my house subjected to? Whether they have a lake under it or some other issue, you know, a gas line running right behind their house, or, you know, walls that are crumbling or something. How do they find out? What if, you know, the engineer recorded that it was actually 0.45 instead of 0.35? How would the resident know that? How do they find that? Who do they call? Did they call Monroeville? Did they call geokinetics? Is there somebody? How do they find that out?
I think what would happen is the best thing would be to call us, and we can call geokinetics. Right.
So they would call, let's say, Mr. Little or...
Mr. Little or Mr. Hughes.
And they could say, they were in front of my house, I
Pass
have
it
these
off on him again.
concerns. Can Mr. Hughes find out from geokinetics what the engineer that they hired recorded the PPV at my location?
Yeah, we would have.
Yes and yes. That has already been done. But the homeowner called geokinetics directly. They gave him the information. So there was no issue. We didn't get involved. They talked to him directly.
But for any future people that might
Yes.
have that question, they can call you.
They can call us, or they
Okay.
can call geokinetics.
They
Okay.
can call
And they
either or.
did- they
That's
did-
good. They can call either or, he's saying.
Right.
Okay.
Very good.
That's good.
He said geokinetics is answering.
Okay, so you can call, is there a number? Is it just, you just find geokinetics? What's their contact?
Here's a number on the
code?
website.
It's on
It's
our
on our
website.
website,
It's on our
okay,
website.
just
On
for
our
anybody who
website,
wants
right.
that information.
And then
Okay.
ultimately, once again, I mean, they can always start, track down
Sure.
somebody involved with Monroeville, whether it's
Right.
the manager, call the main line, call.
Because as you
me,
all
call
realize
the council
very
people.
well, and just as Sandy, who spoke before me, we're all at different levels of understanding about this. You know that I come here and speak every month, but some of the people are just finding out about this now, and they have no idea who should I call. You know, they're asking us because we've been involved, and so I'm trying to help other people, of course. And
Thank you.
So,
Can
okay.
I
Good
ask
points.
a question?
Thank you.
I'll
Yes,
ask you
sure,
since
sure.
you're standing here.
Absolutely.
I've seen word put out by a person from Sustainable Monroeville out onto the web, actually a previous council person. So I think people would buy into what they're saying. And they're telling people to remove the geofoams and put them in a box and return them to the sender. What?
That's bad advice.
I mean, can you explain to me, were you at Sustainable Monroeville's meeting?
I was, but I don't. I think it was, as in my opinion, I can't speak for somebody else, but it's just to say, as I interpreted it.
Well, if they want to come up and talk about it, I'd be
Okay,
happy
but when
to. But I
people
didn't
were
want-
people were asking, can I do that? And it was stated at the meeting that we can't tell them that they can do that.
Well, because I'm
You know what I
hoping
mean?
that message is not getting pushed, because that's
Yeah.
really not legal to do, and it's not really fair to people that don't know what's going on,
Right.
and they're going to trust in someone like yourself, who has a lot of information. And since you put out the idea that there are different levels of people that know what is going
Sure,
on,
sure,
you're
absolutely.
going to expect someone that is very big and sustainable in Monroeville, and also had been previously sitting up here on the council to give you correct information.
Right.
And when they're not, and people are following that could put them in a bad situation.
Yeah, I'm
And
actually
that's
not
concerning to me.
I'm not actually aware of what you said was in writing, or it was.
It
on
was
the-
out on the web.
But it wasn't from an official Sustainable Monroeville link, was it? It wasn't Sustainable Monroeville.
No,
did
it
not
wasn't
put
a
that out.
Sustainable Monroeville link, but
Oh,
this
okay.
person is,
Okay.
puts themselves out as a Sustainable Monroeville individual, and so people would believe that that they could do that.
Okay. All I can say is at our official meeting, there was no official, like, yes, you should do that. I mean, it was kind of.
Well, I hope it was
can't-
told that
yeah.
if they're in the right
Yeah.
of way, they're not in the middle of your yard, that you should not take that upon yourself to be digging those items out of the ground. I just am trying to look out for a bigger portion of Monroeville so that people don't get themselves caught in a bad place.
Right. And I
with
think,
bad
if,
info.
and just as an aside, and I know I'm probably over the 5 minutes, but because I was
I got
asked
you.
a
Yeah,
separate
that's okay.
question.
I'm sorry,
It's
but
okay, it's okay. I just want to make sure, and before this, I might be the last person in the public session here to speak, and so just in case nobody else speaks to it, I can't say for sure because it hasn't, I don't know that I know the Vibrosis trucks passed my house, but I don't know that they actually did anything in front of my house other than pass it. But we do still have within the agreement that, let's say somebody found a geophone in front of near the sidewalk of their house, and the testing was done. And I can read it to you, but they're supposed to inform within 30 days of any structure within 150 feet. Now, what I referred to before was that they can't do it within 50 feet on a Monroeville road. But if it's going to be done, and this is actually a good point. I'm glad this kind of brought this up in my mind. Let's say it's a state road or a Monroeville road, either way, we were saying, or a county road or whatever it is, and we understand what we already spoke about. But let's say it is a state road and they conduct the seismic testing on the road. Our ordinance says that property owner needs to be notified within 30 days if it's done within 150 feet of their house. Now, I don't know. I know that I've heard people saying that it was done near their house and they had no notification. I can't speak for other people. They'll have to come up here and speak for themselves. But so actually two issues. One is it's possible what's going on is that it's happening within 150 feet of people's homes, which may be absolutely legal to do, but not if they didn't give the notification within 30 days. That's one issue. The other being, just out of curiosity, let's say it's a state road. Do they still have to give notice within 30 days if it's 150 feet within their property, but they did it on a state road rather than a Monroeville road? Once again, is that the same answer as before?
From our perspective, yes.
So it's not the same answer as before. So it's a state road, they do it, it's within 150 feet of somebody's
Well,
house.
but it's the same situation.
Okay, so
The
it is.
state-
We're going
the
to call
state may
the state.
say-
It's the
We're
same
going to call
answer.
the state, and the state's going to say.
Hey, well,
we're
that
the
doesn't
state.
apply because it was a state road. Okay. So once again, know where you live.
Right.
Right. But to the other thing, you may be finding out from people that that's definitely Monroeville roads, definite Monroeville small residential roads. It's been done within 150 feet of their home, but they had no notice. But I'm going to have to let them speak for themselves. So just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Floor is still open. Please state your name for the record and that you live in Monroeville.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Alyssa Beck, and I live at 106 Trotwood Drive. I thought that we had put an ordinance in place that was protective of our residents in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and I had stepped back. For those of you that don't know, I founded Monroeville with others in 2010. But I stepped back. The other day, I was taking a break from my work. I was working from home the other day, and I walked down my block, and I saw 5 things that were about 4 inches in diameter, made of plastic, in the yards of people on our block between the sidewalk and the street. And I didn't know what those things were. I suspected they might have been geophones, but when, in my view, another seismic testing company was doing seismic testing in Monroeville back in, I think it was July or August of this year, that seismic testing looked different. That seismic testing involved long kind of cords with things coming out that the men ran along and stepped on and put in the ground. So this was something different. One of my neighbors, thank you, who's here today, was pulling into his driveway, and I said, hey, what is this? Do you know? He didn't know. Another neighbor, who thankfully is here today too, said he didn't know. And then he noticed there's a blinking light on it, and I was pretty sure at that point it was a geophone. So I emailed through Sustainable Monroeville to you, Nick, and I didn't receive a response.
I thought I responded back to you in the group email.
Well, I didn't see, maybe.
I apologize.
Okay.
I'll have to look through and see.
So I'm wondering what it is that the municipality of Monroeville is doing to protect the citizens. We were not on Trotwood Drive. I'm at 106. The people on either side of me have the geophones placed. There was not one placed on my property. There was one placed on the corner of Trotwood and Haymaker. That person was advised, and right across the street at Trotwood and Haymaker.
You said they were notified up
They
there?
were notified. My understanding was that the notifications would involve written notification. A neighbor who is, I think, diametrically opposed to what my views are on seismic testing and fracking called me and said, I got this thing, it looks like a door handle notice, but it was at my garage, at the entrance of my garage. What's this all about? And so I shared a few things. I didn't want to overwhelm this gentleman. And he then subsequently, I was shocked, put a no seismic testing sign in his yard, as well as the other neighbor that was informed. Like I said, nobody else on our block was informed. Mrs. Gatos, is this legal within the municipal ordinance that we have in place? What rights do we have as citizens right now? Because this week, this is going to be happening. So what right does a company called GeoKinetics have to come in under my property? And there's a word I really want to use right now that has to do with the Me Too campaign. And it has to do with Mother Earth. And if you think of Mother Earth 2 and relate it to the Me Too campaign, I'm purposely being confusing about this because there are children in the room. But this is happening underneath our properties as we sit here and make excuses for not protecting our citizens and Mother Earth. And I would like to know, Mrs. Gatos, what right does somebody have to come onto the property not 50 feet from the properties, and put a geophone when they are not a public utility?
Well, Ms. Beck, Dr. Beck, if you could just address me for a moment. The Trotwood situation, when we found out about it, we notified GeoKinetics. We were told that they did hang the door hangers, and I think you referenced those notifications.
They did not hang drawer hangers on Trotwood Drive. They hung.
Yeah, you're right. The people on Trotwood I spoke to, correct. I agree with you. The ones I spoke to, they said they did not. And
wait, can I stop you for a minute, Nick?
Go ahead.
Isn't that illegal? How can you now stop them right now?
Well, I wasn't
I'm not finished either.
Go
So
ahead, no.
right now, stop them from doing what is illegal based on what our law is until they give people 30-day notice, because you are really aggravating the elders in our community, the dogs in our community, who knows what, the wildlife, and the individuals, all of the individuals in the community who have not been notified. This is not a public utility.
5 minutes.
Your turn.
Okay. Well, we looked into this. There were people that were notified in the surrounding area. I did speak to a couple people on Trotwood, 2 that had geophones in their yards that were not notified, and we did discuss it and explained it, and we've touched base.
How did you explain it?
I asked them if they were notified.
And they said no, and then how did
Well,
you...
they said they don't recall receiving a notification.
I can tell you, and I have some witnesses here that can tell you, there's 2 of them sitting behind here. Trotwood Drive residents that were not on Haymaker were not advised that geophones were placed. This is just a tip of the iceberg. There are many, many people on Haymaker and elsewhere that were not advised.
Well,
this is illegal, is it not?
Well,
can you answer that question directly?
I will answer that we spoke to GeoKinetics, and they provided us with a time frame of whenever they did hand out these notices.
Okay.
And now what I will say, what we've learned, unfortunately, through this, is that this needs to be done better.
Wait a minute, can't you take the police and tell GeoKinetics to go away right now because they are doing what is illegal? We have a law in place. We have an ordinance.
They're already completed. They've already completed Haymaker Road. They will no longer be there.
It doesn't matter. They have not informed others where they're going to be doing their work this week, Mr. Mayor, Dr. Mayor.
They handed us
Mr.
a
Dr. Mayor. That was what she said.
They handed us a schedule, and they told us when they notified people. We have spoken to people that said they were notified. Yes, I've heard from people.
So you are trusting GeoKinetics, a private company that's coming in from who knows where, over the residents, and you're not going after them with the police department because you are theoretically not informing the police department?
After them with the police department for what?
Yeah.
For doing what is illegal in our municipality based on a...
The police department doesn't enforce civil law.
Who does?
The judge.
What
You
judge?
have to go file a complaint with the
What
magistrate.
judge? Wait a minute. I'm...
Local judge, the magistrate.
There must be a way...
It's
There
not a
must be a
criminal
way to stop GeoKinetics from their breaking the law right
Okay,
now,
well, I'm
in their
telling-
tracks, not after the fact. They came through very quickly near Trotwood Drive when I was at a Passover Seder at 6:30 on Saturday evening. Is that a disturbance of the peace to be pounding the pavement between Good Friday and Easter Sunday during Passover? Is that not a calculated kind of a thing? And we can't stop this nonsense?
It's not a criminal law that the police enforce, is what I'm telling you.
So we just let them do
I
their...
didn't say that. What I said to you is the police can't enforce that law.
And we immediately spoke to GeoKinetics. Mr. Little, was that you, or was that Mr.
Yeah, Paul Yugas and I had a meeting with Cougar Land Services today, and they put all of the notifications, they have a record of it on Haymaker on February 19th and February 20th. And
There's
can
one...
I speak, please? And they don't have the record of Trotwood, but when they do where there isn't any vibrosis, it's in that general time frame within a couple weeks or so.
Wait, say that statement
May I
again.
ask
I didn't
a
understand.
question?
They have a record of Haymaker Road being done February the 19th and February the 20th.
That's not
And we
30
were-
days before when they started.
I mean, I'm not going to say when they did Haymaker Road. All I'm telling you is what I was told, that they have a record of doing Haymaker Road on February the 19th and February the 20th with putting the door hangers on. Trotwood Drive, they can't pinpoint the date on Trotwood Drive, but it would be within that time frame, a week or so, that they did Trotwood Drive.
Okay, so what I'm here to state for all the citizens of Monroeville and the council of Monroeville, the mayor of Monroeville, the manager of Monroeville, with all due respect, this is apparently the modus operandi of the business. They inform some people so that they can say that people have been informed.
Lisa, may I ask a question?
And then they, excuse me,
As you
and then they
continue.
go and do their thing. And if the citizens and the council members and the mayor and the municipal manager do not stand up to them, they're going to be done and they're going to be moving on. And then the next chapter is coming. I don't have 5 more minutes to talk about what the next chapter is. But in the last chapter, the municipality was sued when they had something that, an ordinance in place that protected the citizens. And then a lawsuit was threatened. And with all due respect, our municipal manager, our municipal lawyer, didn't stand up.
And your municipal council didn't stand up.
That's
My
right.
question is this, to Mr. Ratcher. Can we put a cease and desist order out there until they start complying with the notification?
If you direct the municipal staff to do that, that can be done.
I would like to recommend that we do that at this point until they start complying.
They stop work order. Council?
Okay, so how do we proceed?
I agree because, as Ms. Beck said, and as Mr. Wilson
You
said...
can call me doctor, too.
As Dr. Beck said, sorry, that they're obligated to comply too. We, as she said, put up a fight, a little bit of a fight, and when it came clear by the judge's conference with our solicitor that we were going to clearly lose that, we decided to make an agreement with them, and they haven't lived up to their end of the agreement. We shut them down.
I agree. Dr. Beck, you had addressed me earlier. What I was going to tell you is I also have made phone calls on behalf of some of my residents to Mr. Yugas because they said that they hadn't been notified. Another gentleman said his daughter tripped over one in the yard. He didn't know it was coming, okay? So there has been a lot of issues. So that is really what tonight was going to be about. The discussions from your side, from your meeting last night, which I'm sorry, I really had planned on attending. I just could not. I had my grandkids.
That meeting, by the way, was attended by about 20 people. I thank the people from the municipality that were there.
Yeah.
There were several from the
I
municipality,
would have
which
liked
was
to have been.
excellent. And I did record it on for the first time ever on my iPhone, and I'm trying to figure out how to upload it or download it or sideload it, and another gentleman
But I
is trying to
really
help me
do, I really do think that Mr. Wilson's suggestion is very pertinent, and I think that it will help to ease everyone's minds, and let's get on the right track
And that would have to
here.
be voted on and implemented tonight.
No, well, it's not really a voting meeting,
No.
but right now, if we just get up, we could talk about it now. I mean, council.
If it's
and-
not done
Direct
tonight,
it.
the
No.
seismic testing
No.
will be done.
Can we just direct it, Nick?
Yeah,
Be done?
yeah, exactly. That's what I want to get a feel before we move on. Is
I'm
everyone, if everyone on council, we're not going to take a vote, but if everyone on council is okay with that, or any objections to
Yes.
doing that?
So we can make.
So
sure
we'll
they're
do this,
doing
we're
what
going to
they
we'll direct the
And when
manager
will that be implemented?
tomorrow.
said tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll leave the floor open. Sir, if you could just state your name for the record and that you live in Monroeville. Did you sign in? And yes, if you could sign in, please.
It's hanging.
Council, I'd like to follow up on what...
State your name for the
Alyssa's-
record,
State your
sir.
name,
I
sir.
sure will. Alyssa's comments were, my name is Chuck Yaskanich, and I'm in Ward 2 on Trotwood Drive, and I'm a neighbor of Alyssa's. And I would like to effectively reinforce what she had said and applaud her and applaud Tom Wilson for his motion. I'm here to voice my dissatisfaction with the seismic testing contractor, Geotechnics, hired by Huntley & Huntley. And I recognize that council is under the influence of Mr. Watcher there, has given permission for the drilling of the property, and I accept that. I'm not happy with it. I think most of Monroeville is very unhappy with it. I think the move by council is extremely unpopular, but I think we have to live with it. Be that as what it may, I'm here today to express my views on Geotechnics and Huntley and Huntley, and I feel that they have violated my property rights. I will ask at the conclusion of my remarks that council take corrective action, which I think you have already taken. It was on Monday, May the 27th, which my neighbor noticed 5 or 6 of these devices that were embedded in the ground. I'm sorry, on March 27th, which were embedded in the ground, and we call it the right-of-way, or an easement, or just plainly the grass strip. These things were buried so that you could see the surface of them. It was kind of ominous because there was a blinking light on it. And for those of you that are in the military, there were 8 brass dots on top. And the brass dots were about this caliber of a .22 rimfire. So those that are suspicious even look worse at it, that what is this thing? Imagine finding a device like this buried with a blinking red diode in your lawn, and what are you going to do? And particularly today in this nefarious world that we're in, all kinds of things happen. Pipe bombs appear, this appears, and that appears. This is right outside of our door, gentlemen. And again, what would you do? We, the neighbors, were legally required to be notified. We were not. And I will support Alyssa and everything she had said, that I have polled virtually. There's 24 neighbors on that street. So out of the 24, perhaps the top 2 were notified, the others were not. There were no door hangers, there were no garage hangers, there was nothing. Some people say they were blown away. They were not blown away. 22 of these don't get blown away. There was no notification as legally required, and if you insisted it be 30 days more, it was even worse than that. You could argue that Geokinetics, the contractor, was responsible, but ultimately, those, particularly you in the legal business, know that Huntley & Huntley is responsible. Take some of the legal litigation on asbestos. If I have somebody remove asbestos from my property, I'm responsible for that until it hits the garbage dump somewhere. If they put it in the wrong place, it's my responsibility. How can Huntley & Huntley back away from this? Next issue. There's a Pennsylvania law, Act number 50, known as the one-call law, that a contractor must do prior to digging. And it's even if they dig 6 inches beneath the ground, they have to do the one call. Part of the one call is that people come in and they stripe your grass or your lawn with color coding indicating what utility work. There is no striping. There's none. They weren't there. They didn't do the one call. Now, maybe a little bit litigious, the piece I'm bringing up, but nevertheless, I think it shows the unethical behavior that we're faced with these people from Geotechnics. But here again, Geokinetics, and ultimately Huntley & Huntley violated the law. The next issue, and this is one for interpretation, but in this piece of grass strip where these geophones were buried, is for the purpose of public utilities and not a private utility that's in business for profit. And so here comes Geotechnics in, burying stuff in a strip that they have no right to do. The interpretation of the law means that this property owner has superior right of the possession and use of this except for the intended entity. And that entity is the utilities and not you. They have no right to be in there unless they have our permission to do so. Again, you have them ignoring the law. So this is 2 law violations. Next issue. Not only did Geotechnics and H&H ignore their responsibilities in my neighborhood, but also in Ms. Gaddis's neighborhood, okay? I've received notice that Geotechnics roughshotted their way through through her word on Kilbuck Drive. They did exactly the same thing in there, no notification either. In summary, Geotechnics and H&H have not provided me and my, say, 22 other neighbors with legal notification. They did not meet PA Act 50 legal requirements of one call, and they did not get property owners' permission to use the easement before they did. What I'd like to request is the following. Immediately stop all future work by Geotechnics and H&H until these issues have been resolved. Thank you, Council, for doing that. Secondly, survey the wards and neighborhood just to sense how far this, whatever you call it, these lack of ethics have processed through our community, so we get an idea of what's really going on. And I'd like to ask that those geophones removed from our easement immediately. In conclusion, to me, right now, this is a property rights issue. It's not a fracking issue. It's not a drilling issue. That's gone. This is a property issue. My issue is that Geokinetics and ultimately H&H have not met their requirements to work in Monroeville as prescribed by the law, the code, ordinances, or even common respect for our property owners. I would like them to stop doing this immediately. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Can I please ask a question? Mr. Yugis, did they not tell us that they would be taking care of the one call, the PA one call, when they were here before us?
I don't recollect.
Yes, they did, Linda.
I thought I remembered them talking about that.
I called People's
Ms. Woodall,
I want want to come up and say something.
You've had your 5
Okay,
minutes.
I called 811, and 811 told me they had no notification.
Okay, I just think,
And that's on record.
I thought I remembered the gentleman that was sitting here in the front row, I don't mean to point at you, sir, sitting here in the front row telling us that they would contact for the underground prior to doing the testing. And if they're not doing that as well, that needs to also be put in the stop, that we need evidence that they have taken care of that.
That should be part of the stop.
I'm asking if
That should
that
be
can
part of the
also be
stop
added
work
into
order,
it.
certainly.
That we get to see that they have made those phone calls.
Linda,
So-
Very good.
My conversation was...
Folks, we're gonna keep going with the public comment time, Citizens Night. So if anyone else would like to address council, now would be your time to do it. Seeing none, we're going to close.
Got one.
Buzzer beater. You did it.
Last but not
If you could just state your name for the record, sir.
I am
and
Tim
state-
Sinback, and I live also on Trotwood Drive. And I fully support what Alyssa and Chuck have said, and I just want to add one comment, and that is, Nick, I believe you said that Geokinetics had indicated that they had informed Trotwood Drive.
They indicated to us that they informed Trotwood.
Right.
Now, certainly, we believe the residents, but we're telling you what we know. We went to them, and they said, on this date, we did this date range, we did that, and that's where we're at this point.
Understand. So the only additional comment I would like to make is, if that is what they are saying, and we on Trotwood know that that did not occur, not only did they not do what they were supposed to do, they're lying about what they said they did, and that makes it even worse. So just additional comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask Paul a question concerning?
Well, why don't we finish up the public comment, Mr. Harvey, and then I'll take your comment. No other comments from the public? Say your name for the record, miss.
It's Jeanette Beagle. I live on Wiltshire Circle. And I was here last month and had asked about the creek that is along Old Frankstown and Hochberg. Because it had, did anybody go look at it, figure out what's going on?
Water was tested, is determined to be non-water discharge.
Okay, and what's going to be done about it?
You don't do anything about non-water discharge. Happens all over the municipality.
Okay, when you have 7-year-olds that are noticing the creek has suddenly changed colors and it's not stopping?
If we have a blue lagoon at the bottom of Thompson Run.
Okay.
Been like that for 70 years.
Okay.
Paul, is there
I'm sorry, I know you want to get your comment out, Mr. Harvey, but...
it's a question concerning what they're saying.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. Does it fall into that? Go ahead, Mr. Harvey.
I was just going to ask, is there a depth to which you are required to call one call over?
Yes.
What is it?
I don't off the top of my
Okay.
head, I'll be honest.
1 inch.
Harvey, I just researched on the internet, and it's no depth at all. Anytime
None.
you dig, that's the way it's defined.
Dig.
All right, folks, if anyone else would like to address council, now's your time to do. Citizens Night, we are going to reopen it up for the public hearing that we talked about earlier, but this is Citizens Night. Seeing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. Just so everyone is aware, our next meeting, next Tuesday, 1 week from today, is the 10th. You will have 2 opportunities. You have an opportunity to speak about any agenda item that we're going to be voting on, and we're going to be going over the agenda right now. But you will also have another non-agenda public comment period at the end of that same meeting. So if there's follow-up questions or concerns or comments, you certainly will have time at next Tuesday's meeting to do so. So we're closing that portion. We're going to open up our agenda-setting meeting. All members of council are here other than Mr. Johns, who could not be here this evening. We have an executive session announcement. Council conducting an executive session for personnel and litigation reasons prior to tonight's Citizens Night, beginning at 6:30 p.m. until 7 p.m. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the April 10th council meeting. And we're moving over to our minutes. In front of us, we have the minutes of Citizens Night for March 8th, the council work session of March 8th, and the regular council meeting of March 13th. Council, any additions or corrections? Seeing none, The tax collections, reports of tax collections. Council, any questions, comments?
No, sir.
Seeing none. List of bills and budget transfers. Mrs. Gatos, I'll start with you if you have any questions this evening.
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Poach?
I do not.
Mr. Harvey?
The only question I had is I happened to notice that the Independence Day bill on there was $24,500, and I didn't know why it was so high when we budgeted 12, and I just thought Mr. Little.
Yeah, we talked about that at the budget hearing. For the past two, we put in $10,000 this year, $12,000 for the fireworks for obviously July 4th. And also, the Conventions Visitors Bureau also contributes $12,000. And the way that is, to answer Mr. Harvey's question, is that the Conventions Visitors Bureau has given the check of their $12,000, except for the last 2 years, directly to the municipality, and then we give it to the Independence Day to pay Pyrotechnico or the other company. But in the last 2 years, like I said, it was given directly to the Independence Day Committee. So I decided in the budget not to budget that amount that we get, and so lo and behold, they give it directly to us this year. Okay, so from an accounting perspective, all we're going to do is we're going to take that $12,000 we got from the Conventions Visitors Bureau and make what's called a contra entry against the expense. So that's why it was only budgeted $10,000. In the past, it was $24,000.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Harvey?
Nope, that's all.
Mr. Arasinko?
Nothing.
Mr. Duncan? Nothing? Mr.
No,
Wilson?
thank you.
Very good. Payroll report. Council, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Seeing none. We will talk about boards and commissions on Tuesday.
I'm sorry, I need to bring something up on that
Oh,
this
sure.
evening. There obviously was some mistake in understanding on the Police Civil Service Commission. Mr. Wilkins had applied to take the permanent seat, and that was given to a different individual. Mr. Wilkins asked to remain the alternate, not to be completely taken off, but to remain the alternate. And it looks like...
So that opening doesn't exist.
Yeah, that opening does not exist. There is no opening for the alternate position. Mr. Wilkins will remain in the alternate position.
Yeah, because we spoke about that last month's meeting.
Right,
Here
but
it's
it's
confirmed,
showing,
but it's still on the...
appearing
Very
that
good.
there's someone
No.
else there for it, and that is not the case.
Okay, so if we could take that out for Tuesday's
vacancy
meeting.
off.
Mr.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes. And I've already talked to that other individual whose name is listed, and he does
He
understand.
understands it? Okay, very
Yes. Okay, so just so that we have everything correct for Tuesday.
So the individual listed here does not want to,
He already understands that because Mr. Wilkins is
seat's
not
no opening.
vacating.
Right, okay.
There is no.
There's nothing there to vacate.
Exactly. Very good.
Okay?
Ms. Gatos, anything else regarding that?
That's it.
Council, any other issues with that topic?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
We're going to move over to our bids and proposals. We have our 2018 commodity bids. Mr. Little.
As council can see in their packets, we have received the commodity bids for 2018 for the benefit of the public. That has to do with hot and cold patch, guide rails we buy, reinforced manholes and concrete pipe, and they are all listed. And the shaded areas are the low bidder. In some of them, for the benefit of council, as council knows, that we only received one bid on some of them, and if council wishes, they can rebid that, but historically, council has awarded the bid in any event. For instance, wood safety surfacing material, we only received one bid on that. And also on storm sewer grates and sign blanks for the signs on the street, small paving in place, which would be the cold patch, steel sign posts, storm sewer grates, crushed stone, and council can see those. And on most of those, the one bidder received all the individual categories, but on some, you can see it's a hodgepodge of where different commodities some companies were lower than others. Storm sewer and grates is a typical example. And if we award this as in totality, then those are the companies that we'll call on the low bid.
Mr. Yugas, do you have any issues with any of the low bidders? Do they all meet
I was not part of this bid.
Oh. Who would have been part of this visit? That question could be answered by
Mike
Mr.
Adams
Little.
and
Do you
myself,
have-
yes. What was your question again, Mrs. Gatos?
Do we have any problems with any of any individual
No,
bidders?
no,
That they meet all the standards, qualifications?
Yeah,
set
no,
forth?
Mike Adams hasn't expressed anything to the
He-
contrary
So he's
on
good
that.
with it?
Yeah, he's okay with it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Little, you mentioned right out of the gate the safety surface material.
Mhm.
Just out of curiosity, do we pick that, there's two prices here, picked up or delivered. Do we pick that up from the company, or what's typical? Or do they deliver to Public Works?
Well, I'd have to talk to Mike on that, but my belief on that is...
Mr. Duncan, do you have any insight?
Typically, I believe, I don't know the location now, what is the...
Rudders. Rudders. is the
Rudders.
bidder.
We
I would
pick
think
it
they
up.
have it delivered to the site.
Or we'd pick it up, because being as close as Rudders.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if they need a truckload.
Because it's in Monroe, there, it's in a Monroeville business.
Right, we'd pick it up.
Okay.
At
And
least
that would
we
save,
have in the past.
okay, and that would save some money, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good.
Okay.
Any other questions about the commodity bids, council?
Nope.
Okay. We're going to move over to our consent agenda. We have some old business, and this is Mr. Little, again.
Okay,
old
so
business.
Kitus Properties, Penn Monroe Shops. This has been on our agenda for a while. Our applicant is requesting a conditional use approval. So this will be a public hearing this evening, and anybody that wishes to give testimony, Mr. Ratcher, our solicitor, will swear you in.
Mr. Mayor.
Can we ask someone
I
to
may.
send
Yeah,
someone
one
out in the
moment.
hallway to quiet the people down so we can actually hear the testimony? Okay.
That's very kind of you.
Thank
And
you.
one, yeah, and Mr. Ratcher, if you had a,
We've already had the public hearing on this.
Yes, I thought so.
We had the public hearing on this?
We did, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, applicant is requesting a conditional use approval pursuant to section 401.8 of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443, as amended to permit a cut and fill operation totaling approximately 152,000 cubic yards of earth. Property is located at 3985 William Penn Highway in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District.
sir, the floor is yours. If you could just state your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Greg Corniotis. I am with R.F. Mytall and Associates, and we're the engineering firm that has prepared the plans that we're going to be considering this evening. To bring everybody up to speed, there was a picture up on the screen there of the location. This is a proposed strip center as well as a restaurant attached to it that would be replacing where the old Penn Monroe Bar was located some years
Say
ago.
Route 22 on the bottom.
Okay, there we
On the
go.
bottom.
Sir,
Right
yes,
down
if you
here.
could, yeah, orient us
Just
and
need
the
to
people that are
orient
watching, just
Bridgewater.
outline the roads.
All right, so here's Business 22, and here's Duff Road going down, and then across from there would be, I believe there's the pretzel store. Over here further is where Sheetz is. There is the Jiffy Lube at this point, and there is the other building
Excuse me,
here.
Greg, could you speak into the microphone? I'm sorry. I couldn't
Sure, I'm
hear you
sorry.
very well.
Okay, over here is Golden Corral.
Very good. Thank you.
So what the intent is, a few years back, there was a site plan approval for another project that was on the site. It was a 5-story motel at that time. Group Six Sigma had gotten the approvals for it. However, because of circumstances, it was found out that motels now in Monroeville, because of since the other motels that are current, that was not really a good product to bring back into the municipality. So what is proposed here is a strip center, and I have a diagram showing what that would look like, the facade, as well as the proposed restaurant. The access into the site would be off of Business 22, full access here, and then there would be a secondary access coming off of Duff Road. I believe in a conversation earlier, there was some question as to site distance, and we've been working with staff as well as the municipal traffic engineer to rectify this, and we feel that we have met the concerns. What we did to do that is we moved the direction or the location. If you see where this line is here, this is opposite where the Golden Corral exit is. For site distance purposes, it was moved 75 feet to the north. That gives us better visibility coming up the site, and also the way we had to regrade the site. The access point to the location along Duff Road is elevated slightly, so that the cars now are more of in a hump as opposed to a recessed area.
How many feet away is that from the entrance to the
Golden Corral.
Golden Corral?
Golden Corral, yeah.
75 feet.
Pardon me?
75 feet.
Thank you.
So that hopefully has taken care of those issues. To replace some of the parking that was proposed at that time, there was a parking area here. We have now moved it and relocated it to the south of the access driveway, being able to do that as well. We are proposing stormwater detention on site, underground stormwater detention, as well as there's a detention basin over through here, as well as a BMP constructed area. Mr. Zakaitis currently is working off of the old permits from the Group 6 Sigma, and he's bringing fill in at this time. With the modification of this axis, because we moved it further down along Duff Road, we're importing roughly around 400 less yards of material to do the product. So that's, if there's any questions that I can help.
That is amended in here? That amount is amended?
That is on the site plans.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When this came up the last time, the slope of the hill going down
Mhm.
was brought up, and it was shown the step levels. And it was requested that a possibility of a line of trees be put at the bottom.
Okay?
Thomas, isn't this what we talked
Oh,
about?
it wasn't at the bottom, it was to protect the folks on
To
Lilac
protect the-
Drive.
yes.
It would be a barrier.
Between
some-
your property and the resident.
Yeah.
Yes, down below, because they showed us how it was going to step up the hillside, so it was asked if they would be willing to add in a row of vegetation, trees is what I think everybody thought was the best idea to protect the residents down below.
Okay. We do have that buffer area showing the pine trees and through here.
There they are. Okay.
Primarily, we do have some closer to the property here where it would be at a higher elevation. As you're setting down lower, the slope, the engineered slope that is in there, you're not going to be seeing much of the goings-on up above.
I don't think it was really for a visual, it was a sound barrier.
Okay.
It wasn't a visual barrier, it was a sound
Okay.
barrier.
Well, the pine trees are proposed at this point.
Okay, so they were added since we all met last time, because it's been a long time since you've been here.
To be completely honest with you, I don't know if the plans that you were looking at showed the landscaping at that time.
Not that I can remember.
Okay,
So I
so,
think we just
What,
asked for
Greg?
it.
Okay, okay.
And they
Yeah, we
agreed that
asked
they would
for
add it to it.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we asked for, I believe, trees
Trees,
to be there
okay.
and they're showing a
to,
whole bunch now, Tom, so I think that,
yeah.
So that's in the site plan?
That's in the
Could I see that site plan again? And where do you,
These are the trees and through here.
all right, and how large are those trees?
I believe they're probably at this point at early planting around 4 to 6 feet.
Okay, and what type of trees?
Those will be pines,
Pine trees?
yes,
And then they'll eventually
They'll
grow
grow
into larger trees?
to
right?
maturity.
Okay.
And then what we also have, hopefully to break up some of the area here as well, we do have low-level planting along the guide rail here as well as over through here.
Right.
they can have a wall up there.
Right. Now, where's the creek right there? Where's the creek run?
The creek.
Here we say creek.
Okay. I'm from Wilkinsburg originally, I'm not from Turtle Creek, so.
We're from Turtle Creek.
So the stream came in through here, there was a discharge from PennDOT. that
No, I'm
created-
sorry, I meant at the bottom of the property, down by Lilac. Doesn't it run through here somehow, at the bottom of that property?
I believe what you're referring to, there's a discharge point over and through here. Oh, I'm sorry, here's the head wall, so it would come on through here. So
Okay.
part of
And
that has
and
already,
where's Lilac on here?
that's
Oh,
beyond.
it's up in here?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that was the question we had concerning the water retention at the bottom there, too, was it not?
I can't hear you.
That addressed the questions of the water retention at the bottom.
Yeah.
That was, the folks on Lilac had asked had shown us the photographs about.
Right.
So
Right.
that's an additional water management plan.
That's correct. Stormwater management.
Stormwater management.
Yes.
Increased, okay.
And we've already dealt with those issues prior to with the Planning Commission, and the engineer did the comparison with the pre and post development, and it falls within the municipal standards.
Okay, thank you.
And they were told that it would actually help them, the residents.
That's
It
correct.
should be way better for them for the amount of stormwater runoff.
That's correct. The current flow that Mr. Zakaitis is putting in the bypass system, that is PennDOT's water, and that was the water that was coming off of the highway prior to our development.
Okay.
Anything that is done after this is constructed, the fill is put in place, that'll be detained, and actually it would improve the situation downstream.
For them, okay.
And you did say you're going to terrace this?
The reinforced slope will be one continuous slope. The trees will be placed staggered to help to...
On the slope?
On the slope, that's correct.
Perfect.
Council, any other questions?
Well, there was another issue that Paul and I talked about today. About hauling dirt.
That's later on.
Okay, later on, sorry.
Next.
Ahead of myself.
Don't go for it.
And obviously, no issues with the engineering department or planning?
We've reviewed the plans, they've responded to all the comments, and everything seems to be on track.
Very good. And the planning commission does recommend approval of this item.
Yes.
So, we'll be here next Tuesday. And once
If you
again,
wanted to see a...
oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Picture.
Joe, if you could place that up, put the camera back on there. We have an image.
Are our mics working?
Heard you
Joe,
call.
if you have the eye in the sky there.
Yeah, Mayor, I had to switch the audio. I'm back on the board.
Okay.
Okay. So the restaurant that is going to be to the west is Walnut Grill. Mr. Zakaitis has a vested interest in the restaurant, and he has a partnership in that. There's various Walnut Grills in the Pittsburgh area. This is what it would look like as you're going along the left-hand side of this site. This would be the back portion as well on the Walnut Grill. As far as the building itself, the Walnut Grill would be on the left-hand side, like I mentioned. If I can pull this up a little bit further here. So you would have the Walnut Grill, and then you would have retail spaces to the right as you were coming into the site. Basically, you would be coming into this area here directly from that point. Parking on either side, and would be able to handle the retail portion as well as the restaurant.
Do you have any tenants yet?
There's no tenants yet. There has been some interest, but Mr. Zakaitis didn't go full-fledged with landing anybody until
This is
all the
awesome.
approvals are done.
Well, we're happy for Walnut Grill.
And on the first image you showed of the restaurant, there's outdoor seating?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Will there be parking behind the restaurant too as well, Craig?
There is some parking behind the restaurant. It'll be limited. Primarily, the intent at this point, hopefully for employees,
Right, right.
so that the patrons will be able to handle and come through the front of the...
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else to present, Greg?
That's it.
Good. Council, any questions?
I think that was enough.
Very good.
Thank you. See you Tuesday.
And then moving over to item number 2, which ties into this same project. Mr. Little.
Yeah, Penn Monroe Shops, applicants requesting a site plan approval to construct 29,430 square foot retail plaza, 7,120 square foot restaurant, and associated site amenities. The property is located at 3985 William Penn Highway in the C2 Business Commercial District. Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Yeah, so we covered both of those. One obviously is for moving all the earth and getting the site ready. The next one is actually for the building itself, but we covered both of them at the same time. We'll be voting on these next Tuesday on the 10th. Mr. Little, new business?
Okay, FM&H Associates, which is Monroeville Dodge, applicants requesting site plan approval to construct a gravel surfaced inventory storage lot associated with Dodge and Chrysler Jeep dealerships. The property is located at 3651 William Penn Highway at parcel 638J 310 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. Planning Commission has recommended approval. Any questions from council?
Are they here to show us what they're doing?
Yes.
Oh. Are you going to come up?
Yes, sir, sure. The floor is yours if you would like to discuss.
Well,
If you could state your name for the record.
My name is David Kalina. I'm with Liatis Engineering. We did the site plans for the project.
Welcome.
And
Like where Sam's Club is and where the dealership is?
okay, Sam's Club is on this side. The dealerships and Route 22 are down here below. The yellow area here is the existing paved areas associated with the current dealerships, and this blue area is the proposed extension, gravel extension of the storage lot. The green areas are existing woods. Sam's and the slope going down to Sam's is in this area. And this is basically an unbuildable site. You've got an 80-foot Duquesne Light Power Company right-of-way running right down the middle of it. So we felt that this was a very good use of this particular piece of property, since it is virtually no impact as far as the power company is concerned.
What's on the site currently?
Nothing.
It's flat?
Ish. I wouldn't call it flat.
Is there a lot of earth moving that they'll be doing?
It's about 7,000 yards.
Okay.
I have a question. Since it's a gravel, Paul, was this the same property that received the variance or a couple years ago?
A year ago, yes.
Yeah, okay, because it's gravel?
Correct. There were 5 or 6 variances granted for this project.
That's what I thought.
The reason they were granted was because it's tucked away. It's underneath a large transmission power line. Doesn't really have any neighbors that would be affected by reduced lighting, gravel parking lot.
And it doesn't even have any road frontage.
Okay.
Okay.
There is no public access to this property. So there's really, except for the dealership, there's nobody else that could even access it.
Speaking of access, have you given proof that you have existing access road from temporary construction that crosses the private property, Sunoco pipeline, Duquesne Light Power right away? It was supposed to be supplied.
Has
that been done?
Yes and no. We are working on them.
Okay.
I finally was able to actually talk to a person from Duquesne Light today.
Okay.
And they are supposed to be getting back with me on whatever they need to give us their blessing.
How long do you anticipate until you receive that information?
That I don't know how quickly Duquesne Light moves on anything. So it could, I would anticipate we're probably at least 30 days out, would be my guess.
So you were not going to do anything until you received that?
Oh, we still have to get the NPDES permit, okay. So, I mean, this is...
Is that the only two that you need a letter from to allow you to use?
Well, there are...
Because I thought, and I don't want to say a name out loud, because I thought when I was reading the planning minutes, there was another party that was listed.
Well...
And that could have been a type error, so I don't really want to say the name out loud if it's not true.
Well, the orange is the way we are planning on accessing this site for construction.
Okay.
This is an existing gravel roadway that runs back through there right now. Mm-hmm. We have already bought by a 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s easement, the right to traverse this section up here.
Okay.
We are working on getting this section. We have 2 of the 3 pieces already in place. We're working on the 3rd, but we didn't want to provide it piecemeal.
Okay.
So as soon as we get that 3rd, we will be providing the access to the borough as proof of access.
Okay.
And, essentially, it's basically just going to be a big gravel lot.
Right. You're going to park extra cars up there.
Yeah,
so,
inventory storage.
Right.
Very good.
Mr. Yus, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council?
Nope.
Very good. We'll be back here next Tuesday to consider
you.
this item.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Little, we're moving over to the next item, 18-2-C.
Geraldine Patterson, Stepping Stones Daycare. Applicant is requesting conditional use approval to operate a child care facility pursuant to the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended, section 401.9. The property is located at 2550 Monroeville Boulevard in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. And as required, this is a public hearing, so anybody that wishes to speak would have to be sworn in.
Okay, we have two individuals. Anyone else that plans on speaking about this item? Okay, Mr. Ratcher, if you could swear the
I will.
members in.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, I'm Geraldine Patterson, and this is my daughter, Brianna Humphrey. We're business partners.
Okay, Mrs. Patterson, can you describe the nature of what it is you want to do at this particular location?
We want to open up a daycare,
Okay.
something that's a little bit more intimate. As you can see, I'm working on my sixth grandchild, and we
I
had
think she's
experienced
working
what
on
a
it.
lot of, trust me, I'm working.
Oh, I know you're working. I have to, I know.
Yeah. So we have, my daughter has gone to school for child care education. This has been a dream of hers, and this is something we have had and planned for years. We came across a place that just felt warm to us. It felt more like a home setting and different from all the other experience that we've ever had, where daycares, to me, just a bunch of, you pile a bunch of kids in a room. We want this to be more like their home. So when they're away from home, they're still at home. And it's a more personable for us. And like I said, it's been a dream of ours, and we're hoping to be successful.
So the property's located at 2550 Monroeville Boulevard, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, how many children do you plan to care for?
Very good.
At that time, the state would decide that. They will come in and decide how many children that could be into each room.
Okay, so you haven't applied for your license yet?
No, we have to wait for them to actually come out and measure out the rooms
Sure.
and everything.
Sure.
They do the
Okay.
wall-to-wall.
What's the largest number that you can anticipate? I think we're trying to get some idea of, the...
Yeah, how many square feet is the property?
It's around 3,000 square feet, the first building. The second building that we're using is right beside it. It's connected, and that's another 3,000 square feet. So we're not looking at many more than 50 altogether, and that's for daycare and learning center, which would be school-age kids as well.
Now, our ordinance requires that you provide a recreational area. I assume you're going to provide that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And obviously, you have to get your licensure from the state before you can proceed.
Yes, we've already been in contact with the woman who will be licensing us. She has already come out to the property and looked at everything and gave us the go-ahead to start doing the improvements that we need on the property to get started.
So there's two buildings that you're dealing with?
Yes.
There's multiple on that site, correct?
Yes, there's 3 on that site. We're just using the two that are right beside each other.
I think they're up there right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's one of the two.
Yeah, that's the first building. And then the other one is right behind it.
They're not connected?
They're not connected, but they're right beside each other.
Okay.
Like there's a walkway that goes from the
Sure.
basement, one basement to another, so.
Council, have any other questions?
If I remember, I read correctly that the amount of teachers will be decided on the amount of children, and that's all mandated by the state.
Yes.
Did I read that correctly? Okay.
Yes.
So that's not really something you decide on your own?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we plan on keeping the ratios as low as possible. We don't want to max out ratios, so,
And this is right on Monroeville Boulevard?
yes.
Is there
What about-
anything to keep from the traffic of Monroeville Boulevard for the safety of the kids, or is it just the way that you?
The house sits way back.
I thought so.
Yeah, it's way back. There's like 16 parking spaces.
Okay.
It's between like Jameson Lane and...
Boss's Lane is on the right side,
Right.
and before...
And it sits back nice
Before
off the
the
road,
Yes.
so it's not directly up against the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Little?
Yeah, no, so there's no issue with parking or anything, Paul?
No.
Well,
That was my next question.
No, there's currently between 25 and 30 parking spaces. I don't know if, Joe downstairs, if you have the Google image that you could put up, it might help orient people to.
There we go.
And it's sort of in the center of the monitor there. It's
Can you zoom in there, Joe?
No, that's already a fixed picture. That's from Google.
That's Google
So
Earth.
I have no way to.
All right, okay.
But in the center, you can see that little cluster of buildings, and there's a small parking lot along Monroeville Boulevard. That's the properties in question. So the buildings sit back from the road.
That sits back nice.
I don't know, 80 feet.
Okay. That sits back nice.
My standard question is there going to be adequate access for emergency vehicles?
Yes, there's
Ron, it's an existing facility. It used to be Looks Tanning Salon. Prior to that, it was another business. So they're just occupying an existing business.
Not changing anything?
They're not changing anything.
Okay.
Any other questions from council?
No, pretty much.
Are there any interested parties in the audience that would like to make a comment or ask a question? Seeing none, if council has no more questions, we will close the public hearing.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
See you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
Thank you.
Mr. Little, moving over to our next public hearing item.
Okay, AR Building Company, this is the Fox Plan rezoning. Applicants requesting to rezone 4.67 acres of property, currently zoned C2 Business Commercial to R5 Multifamily Residential. The properties are located at the end of Fox Plan Road and are identified as parcels 856 P331, 856 P339, 857 A82, 857 A78, and 857 A72. And anybody that wishes to comment or give testimony has to be sworn in. This is a public hearing.
Okay, so folks, yeah, anyone, even from the audience, you can just stand up where you're at
Yeah.
your chairs and just, Mr. Ratcher.
Stand up and raise your
Stand up.
right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Now, the way we're going to do this is the applicant's going to present their information first. After they do that, anyone in the audience that wants to come up, ask a question, or give some testimony will be permitted to do so. So, sir, would you identify yourself?
All right. Hello, my name is Jason Kambitsis, K-A-M-B-I-T-S-I-S from AR Building Company. I have my engineer here, Ray Gusty, and my attorney, Dave Nixon. Nice
Welcome.
to see you all tonight. Yeah. So here, I'm going to give you a brief overview, because some of you know, some of you don't know who we are. AR Building Company, I don't know if they can go up there. It's not going up there.
Joe, is the computer set up with you down there?
Okay.
There it is.
Okay, so AR Building Company is a 50-year-old real estate development company. We're headquartered in Seven Fields, started in Pittsburgh. We have over 9,000 units in 10 states. So we build, buy, and manage mostly apartment communities. We have a couple office buildings. Difference between AR Building and other companies, not only do we own them, we build them ourselves, and all the employees are AR Building employees. We're vertically integrated, and we don't sell anything. I think over the history of our entire company, we may have sold 200 units. So we build these things, we manage them, and we keep them. It's a family-owned business. We build and keep for portfolio. Here's a couple examples of properties we have. On the left is one in Cranberry called Chatham Commons. Another one on the top right, Highland Hills in Cumberland, Rhode Island. And the bottom is one called Heritage Preserve in Hilliard, Ohio, and Columbus. This kind of gives you an understanding of the fit, the feel, and finish of our buildings. What we're proposing here is a 4-story elevated apartment building. The size and the scale would be more like to the ones on the right of the screen there, the top one and the one that's red and white. And then here's additional projects done with our architects, River's Edge of Oakmont, and of course they've done the Almano site. Our architects are the Rothschild-Dueno Collaborative. They work with us on every project throughout the country. So again, here's a precedent building. This is actually a 40-unit building in North Fayette called Bright Oaks. Again, all these are 4-story elevated. We have floor-to-ceiling windows. We have decks, stainless steel appliances, 8-9-foot ceilings. So these are luxury apartments. They're all market rate. We don't build Section 8 housing or anything like that. We do mostly market rate housing. The plan that we're proposing for tonight, this is actually kind of a rendering of what we're proposing to do. It's not actually what's on the table tonight. What's on the table tonight is a rezoning. But for us, Doesn't make any sense to come and say, oh, hey, we're just going to rezone it and see what happens. What we're proposing to build is a 92-unit apartment building, 4 stories with elevators, surface parking.
Now, you're actually requesting a downzoning from C2 to R4.
We're requesting the
is that correct?
downzone from
R5,
C2
sorry.
to R5.
R5,
yes.
Okay.
The existing zoning right now for it is C2. So actually, maybe we can put it on the screen here. So right here, here's Ivanhoe Drive. Here's the Ivanhoe Apartments. Here's actually the hospital. And here's our property right here. As you can see, all of this is Zone Z2, C2. The house is over here. There's the chiropractor office right here. There's an office building up here. So this is all C2. And what we're proposing to do tonight is convert it to R5, just like the apartments here, and of course, the hospital over here. Come down Fox Plan Road, it actually terminates due to the grade, so it doesn't go down Monroeville Boulevard. You can go out to 22. We're over here on Ivanhoe Drive down to Monroeville Boulevard. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions regarding that. Of course, my engineer, attorney here as well.
Members of council?
Yeah, just to clarify the last thing you just said. So there won't be an entrance or an exit onto Monroeville Boulevard?
No. It's going to be on Fox Plan out to Ivanhoe.
What about any kind of pedestrian, and I know that's pretty steep, but I mean, anything accessing going down to Monroeville Boulevard?
We can put a pathway in there, walkway down to Monroeville Boulevard if needed. I don't know what the sidewalk situation is on that side of Monroeville.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
If there is, I'm happy to do that.
It used to go, Fox Glen Road used to go in and come down.
Oh, it did?
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
Oh, yeah, many years ago.
Many years ago, I'm sure. It's
Is that other green property that was on the drawing there, was that Ivanhoe Professional Building?
At the top is actually, Ivanhoe Professional Building is Zone C2.
Yeah, but where is it
It's
in
right
relation to
here, I
your,
think.
okay.
Yeah. And the Ivanhoe Apartments are here, and the hospital's right here.
All right.
So, as Mr. Ratchford said, this is a downzoning from C2 to multifamily residential.
I'm sorry, Joe, could you just zoom in on that a little bit more closely? Yeah, now,
Okay, now.
Jason, if you just
slide
slide
it up.
There you go.
There you
Now,
go.
actually, could you just, once again, I'm sorry, just go through and point out again what you were,
Right here are the property that we're talking about.
okay,
Currently, this is all zone red, C2.
gotcha.
Is there access to it from the rear for emergency vehicles, access, and so on? Well, it looked like it's stopped against the hillside. There's.
It is stopped against the hillside, yeah. There is no road, road currently that accesses.
Mr. Nixon, I don't want to take your thunder away from you. Would you like to make a comment on the actual rezoning, the downzoning from commercial to the R5 and the presence of R5 in the vicinity?
David Nixon, 2901 Grant Building. I believe because of the proximity of the two zoning districts that we do not have a spot zoning issue here, that it is simply a legislative function for this body to decide solely within your discretion. We think it makes good sense. I will add one thing that was not discussed, is that if it is rezoned and we go forward with this project, there will be a sanitary sewer which will have to be relocated because it's proposed, right? It exists right underneath the building. It was raised at the Planning Commission that there are actually 5 lots here. 2 lots are in the Fox plan of lots, and 3 lots are not. They're right next to the Ivanhoe property. And there's a little easement that goes through those 3 lots. Well, that was the only access to those 3 lots. We buy all 3 lots, we'll then do a consolidation plan. That easement will go away. It actually was access off of Monroeville Boulevard up on the Ivanhoe property to access those 3 lots. But that'll go away when we do a consolidation for the whole thing. But it's a legislative function. We think it'd be good for the area, good for the site. Oh, and the issue that always comes up, and it's not really something to discuss necessarily at a rezoning issue, but we always know there are 3 issues, and 1's traffic, 2's traffic, and 3's traffic. So I asked Mr. Cambyses again to address what we've looked at the traffic issue. Number 1, what it would be like under the existing zoning, and 2, what it would be like under the I-5, because we know that's probably what the questions are going to come from the people in the audience.
So, you know, when you look at the C2, actually, it's a great night because the first property that came up on William Penn was actually C2. And what you could currently put there now is a building like that. You could put an office building. There's a whole multitude of things that are permitted, not even conditional use, but are permitted on the site. And so we looked at that. And at this point, you don't do a traffic study, but we did a quick and dirty traffic study, just so we understand as we move forward. When we go to site plan approval, we want to know, hey, is this going to work out? We actually produce, if you built a 30,000 square foot office building on site, which is allowed by right, we actually produce half as much traffic as what you could put there today. So just to understand that, it's something we've looked at already.
Yeah, and most of your apartment buildings have the AM, PM traffic, as opposed to the commercial, which is all
and that
day
can
long.
vary,
All
8
day
to
long.
8, whatever people are doing. So.
Are there two professional buildings on that property now?
Currently, there's a house.
Yeah.
No, I mean, on Fox Plant. The Ivanhoe,
There's the chiropractor's office, and then there's the Ivanhoe office building.
right, and then across the street, there's a dentist office and an ophthalmologist?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So that.
And then there's a house at the bottom. And there's a house down here.
So that creates some traffic as well, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
Any other questions for these gentlemen, counsel?
So currently, how many structures are on the property you're talking about?
The property that we are acquiring has one house and some sheds on the outside.
And
But
some
there's
what on the
nothing, and
outside?
some sheds. We found some little old buildings, but there's nothing else of any substance.
Well, one home.
One home that's currently rented,
Okay.
Is someone living in it?
allegedly. Apparently, yes.
Yes, okay.
Allegedly?
Yeah, it's not our house, we're in a
Apparently.
I don't know what that means.
No, it's
Wait a while.
a beautiful home, yeah, they are living there, yes.
Council, any other questions for these two gentlemen?
No, you answered a lot for me anyway.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll now entertain comments from the audience. Please come up one at a time, sign in, state your name, and give us your comment or ask your question, please.
Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Biddle. I'm the chiropractor that owns that building.
Please sign in.
Sign in, sir.
Please sign in, Doc.
Sorry about that.
Up to the,
To your
over
right.
over here.
Your right side.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, just sign in, and you've already stated your name, and then, once you're done signing in, then you can go on with your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
Go ahead, sir.
I bought that building 50-some years ago. I've added on to it twice, and I practiced in it for 52 years.
Excuse me, Dr. Biddle, I can't hear you, sir.
I still,
I'm sorry.
and I still own that building. I still live in it.
To the other podium, we're not.
Sure.
Can you move
Dr.
over this
Biddle,
way to this microphone,
Just go in front of that
please?
microphone, and that'll pick you up a little bit better.
There
Okay.
we- Yes.
I continue to live in that building. I brought my son back from an accident in that building, and I practiced chiropractic for 52 years in there. I still live there. It's still untouched. All the equipment is there. And my son progressed to where I built him a house, and he married and got 2 kids. I still treat him in there, although I'm retired, and I'm 83 years old.
What's your secret?
Chiropractic. Of course.
Oh, come on,
Of
Mike.
course. Mayor.
Yeah,
Mayor.
Some of them, I had to quit because I ruined a shoulder, but I still work on Bobby there. But I had to retire. Otherwise, it would still be going full bore. I was the first one there on Fox Road that was a business. Now it's mostly medical doctors and so on. And I don't see them leaving, and I don't want to leave. I owe nobody.
Thank you, Dr. Biddle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can Marjorie talk?
Absolutely.
What do you want me to say?
Ma'am, have you been sworn in?
Yes, she did.
She did.
Great,
Yeah.
okay,
Just
fine.
sign your name
Please
and
sign your
state it.
name. and-
State your name.
My name is Marjorie Polino. I am a Monroeville resident and also a very good friend for Dr. Biddle. And I
You
think
want to get closer to the mic.
he's concerned, I guess, that he didn't know that all of this was happening until a few weeks ago when AR Building called and said they were having a project next to him. And I guess asked him if he was interested in selling his property. Well, he's just retired in the last 2 years and hasn't been real well the last year or so, but is concerned about, everything that's going on now. This is going to be right up against his property. Now he's retired, and now he has, this big, huge apartment building in his backyard, basically. He's the one that's going to be most affected by this whole thing. The traffic coming in and out. There's no other exits other than Fox Road. I can't imagine that is going to take all of the traffic in and out. There are children across the street now. There are other residents that live there. But he said he did a quick and dirty traffic study. There's a lot of traffic, but of course the traffic doesn't come down the road because it's a dead end. So that's, what kind of a logistic study
It was a
that
through
would be.
road there at one time, wasn't it?
Yes.
Many, many years ago. I mean, he's been a chiropractor there
Well,
for
it's when
50
they- I
years.
guess when they widened
And that
the
has never
boulevard.
been opened, in the last 45 years. So I guess that's what he's concerned about. Also, the distance from his property, obviously, that's going to be right up against his property. Is there going to be any kind of a sound barrier? How long is it going to take to build this? And is there any kind of right-of-way that has to go through his property?
Can I say something? My property is not for sale.
No, we know that.
Okay.
They're aware of that. So he's just, I guess, concerned because he's the one that's most impacted by everything. And now he's going to be there, and is there anything that he has to say about the building on this? I mean, was anybody informed? Has it been approved already? I know
No,
this is
none of
just,
that is- none of
I know
that-
this is just zoning.
This is just for the use of the land. These gentlemen, if they were successful with this rezoning, would still have to come back and present their building plans. And they would have to address all of the issues you're discussing now, stormwater, traffic,
I mean,
setbacks,
children,
everything like that.
school bus issues. Where are the kids going to get their bus if they live there? Of course, it might be smaller apartments. But I guess I was concerned also about the size of the property for that large of a building. I mean, the hospital is built on 13 acres. That's only 4.6 acres. I mean, it's very small. And I do know also that there's natural springs that run underneath Ivanhoe and all of that area. So where does all that water go? I mean, is there sufficient drainage and stuff?
Yes, and those are all things that would have to be addressed by the applicant if it gets to that stage.
And the property now is zone commercial. When did that change? Because it was residential. There's a house on it. What's Jimmy's name? I mean, Jimmy was living there for many, many years, and I thought it was
It's still down there, and there's
residential.
people still living in that house.
It was never
below
a
me.
business on it.
Yeah, I actually think it was rezoned a long time ago, but that's just a guess on my part, but I think it's been zoned commercial quite some time ago.
Paul, you have any idea on that?
I don't, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
paying the
That's what I
taxes,
thought.
I don't know. But I'll pay whatever they say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those businesses wouldn't have been there if it wasn't.
Sir?
I had allowed this to be.
Hi.
John Robinson, I own the property, the house directly across where they want to put the entryway to this building,
So you're on the far side of the road?
right across
On
the
the east
street.
side of the road, let's say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow road, and my parents bought the house in the late 60s, and we've owned it ever since, even though they passed on. My daughter and my son-in-law over here, Jake, have moving into the house, and we've always parked on the side of the street because there's no parking. The part of our property is on a hill, so there was really no place to put a garage. So we park along the street, have been parking there since the 1960s along the street. Now, they're putting the entryway to that right across the street from our house, and Jake has to park there, right there in front of the house to get his wheelchair out of the car and wheel into the house. So where was the parking going to go? I mean, where's the family when we come to visit? I got 12 grandkids. Where's everybody going to go?
How many vehicles are you parking?
They have two vehicles currently right now.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
There's two vehicles currently right now. Jake's vehicle and Jenny's vehicle.
Okay, is your driveway not large enough? Not deep enough, or?
Well, Jake can't park down at the end where, the only spot on the lot where you can get a vehicle, sir, is downhill. It's at the far end of the property. Jake can't wheel up the street to get to the house from down there. He has to park on the street to get to the house.
Near the door.
Near the doorway. And that's one of our main concerns, that I never saw the plot where they were putting the entryway until just a few minutes ago when I saw where they were putting it. As you can, here's the house here, and here's the driveway. Here's their entryway into the complex right there.
You're saying your house doesn't have a driveway, is that what you're?
Yeah, right down here at the far end, as you can see, this is all hillside.
Yes.
At the very far end, there's just a pull-in.
Oh, okay.
It's not really a driveway, just a pull-in. You can pull off the road right there, but you're going down the road. You're going down the hill, so Jake can't wheel up the street to go to the house from down the hill. Everybody is always parked along the road because it's a dead end. Nobody goes back to the end of the road except for the house, the Wendell's house that's right on the far end.
And sir, Dr. Biddle's house is the one right...
This is right here.
Okay.
Yeah. Right there.
Well, if that was built, what would you do with respect to parking? If it was built, what would be your alternatives?
I just found out today. I had a chance to think about it. I just saw this drawing when I came in the door, right? We had no idea.
I don't know, I've never been down that road. I mean, I've been a certain part of the way where the office building is, but I've never been all the way down, and so I don't know the literal lay of the land.
Yeah, there is no place except for along the road, unless this hill was filled in, unless we don't own the lot over there. I mean, we just always have parked along the street ever
So
since.
you don't have a driveway, Mr.
No,
Robinson?
we don't have a
Could a driveway
or
be put in with handicap parking? Do you have the space on your property? is
That's
I'm
what I
trying to
was,
figure
that's
out.
what I was leaning.
You have to look at the ground level. This is all downslope.
So you couldn't even go behind, because I can't tell where your property line ends. Is that jagged line?
Yeah, this is the property line right here.
It's a hill.
This is the hill. See the grade line?
Box Road is a hill.
So this is their property line.
So you couldn't even do it behind?
No.
You couldn't bring,
That's pretty hilly there in that.
Yeah.
that's a pretty hairy area to even try to figure out an alternative answer.
So,
We had to leave our home because he became paralyzed.
Yeah.
You need to come to the microphone. And please, both
Both
of
of
you
you sign in,
in.
please, sir. Don't forget to sign in.
they believe you did.
Sworn in?
Yes.
Yes.
She was, yes. If you just state your name for the record, please.
Jennifer Hoff. Hi.
Jennifer.
My daughter.
My husband became paralyzed a couple months ago, and we have nowhere to live. We lived in Brentwood for 12 years. We've been married, and my dad offered this home to us. It was an idea when he was in the hospital paralyzed, and we had nowhere else to go. And it has a downstairs. It has we can have a bathroom downstairs. It's the only place. We were really excited about it. And then we've been going in there, moving in, getting it ready, and my husband, since I was a little girl, my grandma lived there, and everyone's parked right on the road in front of the house. And my husband, we've been going back and forth in the house. I've been willing him, he gets out, he can transfer, he went to rehab, he can transfer into the car, and this is how we've been doing. I don't know how now, what we're going to do. I mean, we've been living in a hotel right now, trying to get everything moved in. We've been living in the residence inn in Monroeville, getting this house ready for us to move into. And I was so distraught because, I just felt this is our only option. And then I found out that they're building this right here. And I saw that this property that they bought, it said that there was an entrance from, it could be entered, I saw online when they were selling it, it could be entered from Fox Plan, it said, or it could be entered from Monroeville Boulevard. And I thought, oh, well, maybe, hopefully, you know, they'll make it so they can enter through Monroeville Boulevard. There'll be some hope. Maybe they can put up some sound barrier. And I'm worried about construction and traffic, trying to get him into the house on the road, like when they're building this and all this construction and trucks. And what am I supposed to do? I'm trying to take care of him and my little 3-year-old daughter and trying to get them out of the car. And I'm very distraught about all of this. And it just, to me, doesn't make any, it's on a dead end. There's going to be tons of traffic. Even just now, trying to get him out of his wheelchair into the cars, because of that hospital that was built up the street, cars come flying down, and then they see it's a dead end, and they've been flying down there as I'm trying to get him out of the wheelchair. I'm already nervous, and then thinking about all these people moving into this apartment, hundreds and hundreds of people. And to me, it doesn't even seem
Logical.
logical.
The road's very small, narrow.
It's a tiny road. And what are they going to do? Are they going to enlarge it onto everyone's properties? The road, and
Is there signage that says dead end for that road?
Yes.
It's there? Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
making sure, just because,
I think because when they built that hospital and people are coming, there's so
yeah,
much more
instead of them
traffic
getting,
now. People
yeah,
coming
I just
down
wanted
that
to make
road.
sure you at least had that signage up for right now, so if not, we would ask for one.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there
I
is.
don't remember seeing it.
Anyways, I just don't understand why can't it be built from Monroeville Boulevard? And also, it just seems funny to make a big apartment complex right at a dead end, so everyone's coming down, there's going to be so much traffic, people turning around, not able to go down, other than to turn around up this tiny little road. And then I just have, you know, questions too about sound barriers and construction, as we're trying to, every day on a daily basis, you know, trying to get into the house and trying to get him in his wheelchair, and then the construction going on for years, and the noise, and like the barriers. You know,
Yeah, well,
how
I think,
far is-
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I think council now has an idea of what your situation is, and some of these things are really getting into the actual construction. We're just not that far yet with the review of it.
Well, one thing I want to point out on this drawing here, if you'll see, the road is ending right here. Now, what
Yes.
happens when the cars drive down the end of the road? Where are they going? Right now, they back into the Wendell's driveway and
Yeah.
turn around and leave. Well, now what are they going to do?
Yeah, that would be something that would
They're
have to be
backing up.
addressed,
I
obviously.
mean, this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Oh, okay, come on up,
You
we'll
can
swear
be
you
sworn
in.
in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, would you please sign the register and just state your name?
Okay. My name is Janine Capson, and I work at the accounting firm Buckler McKinney in Nozati, across the street from where they want to build their apartments. And I just would like to say that what I'm concerned about, I've worked for the accounting firm for 23 years, so I know the area very well. At the end of that street there, it's a cliff, basically. There's hardly any room there for building what they want to build. My concern is we have a very busy accounting firm. I'm very busy right now because tax season's right around the corner. But we have, it's so busy there. We're worried about our clients coming in and out. It's going to be a big nuisance to have all those vehicles for construction purposes, and also, you know, busy for an apartment building being down there. And my other concern is structurally, since we're on, in the back of our building is a cliff, you know, I'm worried about the movement of the earth. You know, when they start building, if they start building this, what's going to happen to our building? Is it going to move anymore? Because it's been there. So that's a big concern of mine.
Which
too.
building is yours again, I'm sorry?
116 Fox Plan Road.
But it's never moved, you said
Is that where
move
you
again?
live, ma'am?
No,
Where
not
she
moved.
works.
I'm worried if they start building there, then our
Okay,
building
because you
will start.
said moved again, and I was.
No,
concerned.
it hasn't moved. But I'm worried about it moving. You know, so that's a big. You know, we're in the back on the
Is
back.
that where you
hill there.
live, at that address?
No, I work there.
Where do you live?
I live in North Huntington.
yes.
Yeah.
Is that relative?
Oh, wait.
I work at Fox Plain Road for 23 years.
Well,
You're not a resident of Monroeville.
Thank you.
No, I'm
Thank you
just
for your
coming
comments.
here
Okay.
to state my opinion. Thank you.
Next, please.
They covered most of it.
I've been waiting.
And you're not nervous
She was-
now.
No, she was hoping she could get out of it, like, they cover everything.
Cover everything. I just wanted to.
We were going to
Dr.
drag you up here.
If you signed, that's fine. Just restate your name so everybody knows who
Dr.
you are.
D. Piazza, business on 116 Fox Plain. I'm in the same building as Janine. So before, when you were explaining right-of-way, this, I see, says 33 feet right-of-way. So what does that mean do you have to widen the road? When you explained the right-of-way before, you said you have to split it in half. Who was explaining that?
Mr. Yugas.
Of course, Paul. So you have to split it in half.
Typically, you go from the center line of the road. So if it's 33-foot right-of-way, it's 16 and a half feet from the center line of the road to the edge of the right-of-way line.
Okay, so if that would come, so it's a 2-lane skinny road.
And it's probably 10-foot lanes each direction, so it's probably 20 feet in width.
Okay, so if you had to widen the road, would you have to take like some of our parking area in my,
Those are all things that have to be determined, Doc.
okay.
That
So I have to come
happens at the
back.
next.
You're going to make
that
me have
happens
to
at
come
the
back
next
and
stage.
say it again?
Yes.
The first level of analysis.
Practice at home.
I've
Okay.
never known you to be shy.
We like seeing you.
Well, you know, it's different when I'm cheering for volleyball.
I know.
All right, thank you.
While you're
Yeah.
here, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Sure,
Sure,
Ray
please.
Gusty from Barry McCarty Gray. So your property, all right, there. So your property's up here. This is,
Yes, yes.
so you're up here,
Yes,
back here.
but that's
where-
all my parking, all
Right.
my parking.
We wouldn't need to do anything this far up. Anything would take place down here.
Oh, okay. Then I don't have to come back, thanks.
Anyone else who would like to ask a question or make a comment?
Well, is there any proposal to widen the road?
I don't think they're that far along yet, sir. That's another thing that would be part of the actual construction plans.
This is just a
Because all
rezone.
along the front of the property, we have 100-year-old trees.
I mean, that's the nicety of the property, is the trees right along there.
I think we're only at a rezoning right now. We're not
Okay.
anywhere near a construction, site plan. Yeah.
But these are the type of things that would be brought up if it were to be approved to rezone. It would come back to us whenever
Yeah,
the
there's a
company
lot
was
more to
ready,
go.
whether it be the following month or several months. And the site plan would then be reviewed by our planning commission, and then it would come back to the municipality. And these are the type of things that would be brought up and addressed. And at that time, if those items weren't addressed or couldn't be addressed, it could be denied at that point.
Anyone else in the audience care to make a comment? The applicant care to make any final comments?
No, I'm fine.
You're good?
Real quickly, we will address all those issues. I mean, there are concern to everybody. Anytime a development goes in, everybody says. Sir, we can't hear
you. Speak into the microphone, David.
Everybody says, I was trying to address the people too. Everybody says, you know, they call it NIMBY, not in my backyard. And we want to be good neighbors. We honestly want to be good neighbors, and so we will certainly work with you to try to develop it appropriately with the traffic, the soil and erosion, the runoff, all of the above. This is not our first time to do this, and it's always a concern. We can show you other projects. You can go look at other complexes to see, you know, how we've done it, that sort of thing. So we're open, and we will always be open through the whole process. So we will hopefully, if they see fit to rezone it, we will hopefully be able to address your concerns as best we possibly can. Unfortunately, land doesn't always lay fallow forever. You know, somebody's going to do something with it sometime. So we just think this would be less intrusive than if it was developed as commercial, which they could do right now.
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Mr.
Thanks.
Doesn't necessarily agree with that. I mean, a commercial-
Okay, wait, we're not going to.
Sorry.
Okay, sir.
You can come up.
Did you,
I think we have.
were you sworn in?
No, we're going to close it. Okay, this closes the public hearing. This matter will be addressed by council on Tuesday, April 10th.
Yes,
Correct?
1 week from today.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, moving over to motions. Mr. Little?
Okay, three motions here, the same. Motion to install streetlight at Gulf Ridge Drive and Old Frankstown Road on pole number 12076272355. Item 2, a motion to install streetlight on Old Frankstown Road near the fire hydrant on pole number 12074272331. Item number 3 is a motion to install a streetlight on Old Frankstown Road and Carriage Drive on pole number 12072-272333. And as a comment, staff is kind of questioning whether we need, these were requested by a resident, and whether or not we need all three. I don't know, but I think that it may be investigated a little bit further. Unless council wants to approve them, that's fine. The question is if we need all three of them in that location.
Excuse me, would I be able to add one on to that at a different location? There was a streetlight request put in, the lady just notified me, back in 2015, and I had approached Paul in regards to it, and it still hasn't been installed, and I think there was an oversight possibly on my part as far as...
Yeah, I think we went through the motions. I don't think it was put up. I just have to follow up on it.
Needs to approve it again?
I'm not sure if it was approved.
All right, add it to the list.
When, Steve, when possibly?
This was November 5th, 2015, 516 Kentucky Avenue.
Add it to the list again.
Just add to it.
Yeah.
Well, just give me that paper.
Yes,
We'll just add it to
I
the
will.
list and everything.
I'd appreciate it if
Okay.
you'd add it to the
But
list.
I don't know how we determine whether we need all three. I mean,
Whose are all these?
but,
Let me ask a dumb question then, Tim. Is it darker in that area?
I'm familiar with Old Frankstown Road, but
I
I
am
just don't
too,
know
but I'm
where.
just saying, is that
on Old
going to
Frankstown
help the
Road.
situation?
I'll go take a ride. I'll check it out.
All right, check it out. Okay, okay.
And that was requested by a housing development?
Resident.
I think they had a petition. Did they have a petition, Joe? Did they have a petition on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Next.
Okay, so we have those three motions. Mr. Little?
Okay, and item number 4 in your packet, a motion to approve agreement with MS Consultants Incorporated for the performance of engineering, architectural, and planning services for 2018. This is for our outside engineer. They gave a couple months ago, 3 months ago, they gave me somewhat of a voluminous agreement, and I talked to Charlie Jordan, our outside engineer, and his attorneys gave it to him, and they whittled it down, and this is the final product. And Mr. Ratcher has looked at it, and he says it's okay, so that's for council's consideration on Tuesday evening, unless there's any questions currently.
No, sir?
Nope.
Okay, item number 5, a motion to expend $189,700.80 from the Asset Seizure Fund for the public communication equipment. As all of council knows, the Asset Seizure Fund is from work our police officers do undercover, mostly with the federal government and sometimes the state. Any kind of assets that are seized, there is a certain percentage that a municipality will receive, and that's contained within an asset seizure fund that we do have, and this is for the public communication equipment that is being purchased as has been budgeted in the 2018 budget. Any questions on that, council?
Okay, moving over to resolutions.
All right, resolutions. Number 1, a resolution adopting the Penn Monroe Shops sewage planning module. Council tabled this resolution at their March 13th, 2018 meeting. So if it's to be approved, they'd have to make a motion to untable. We ready for that,
Now's the
Paul?
time?
Yep, if you're going to go through with the site plan, you can move us through also.
Yeah, but I just want to...
Tuesday.
Do it Tuesday.
Yep.
But we're ready.
Resolution number 2, Mr. Little.
Okay, a resolution amending the work hours for the site plan application number 17-3 ST of the Zokitis Properties LP concerning property located at 3985 William Penn Highway.
Yeah, the hours from when to what?
That would be up until...
What is the amendment?
It's in your packet. It's, they're asking from 7 PM to 4:30 a.m.
The pink.
Currently, it's 7 to 7. They're asking from 7 p.m. to 4:30 a.m.
Can't do
7
it.
PM to 4:30 AM.
Yes.
Can't do it.
What?
They're asking for, that they can deliver material between 7 PM and 4:30 AM. Is that correct?
That's correct.
7 a.m.,
Off of
right?
22.
Yeah, they're asking from 7 p.m. to 4:30 a.m.
4:30 a.m.
What
4:30
what
a.m.
kind
Then
of,
what happens during the day?
Well, they currently can work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, so what do they have?
Oh, so actually, we're going to change it from 7 A to 7 P to now 7 AM
To
to 4:30
4:30
AM. To your point, Mr. Wilson.
I'm aware of it.
Okay. You had a comment?
No, I
Or
was,
you want-
if there was any questions regarding
I
the
have-
reason
Tom,
for
you
the
don't want
hours.
nighttime work. You don't want it into the middle of the night. Would this material be delivered off 22 or down from below? Is that the
I raised
issue?
my hand, she talked.
You have a wife, don't you? You know how this stuff goes.
What do you say?
I raised my hand and she talked.
Oh, okay, well, that works, yeah.
I said, you have
That's how
a
it works at
wife.
my house.
Sorry, I missed your
Ron,
hand.
and then I have a question. Go ahead.
Mr.
Please.
Zakaitis could not
And
be
Eric
here
just
this
gave
evening,
up.
so he informed me about some of the details regarding this, so I could hopefully inform council.
Okay.
The reason for the late hours, the material that he's bringing in on...
Greg, don't waste your time. It's not
Okay.
going to happen.
Well, no, Greg, please.
Okay.
We understand your...
I know what he's talking about. I can't let my folks on Lilac Drive listen to truck traffic till 4:30 a.m. in the morning. I will not let that happen. Bottom line.
Your position is commendable, but if they let the gentleman just outline what he's going to say, and...
I just told you what he was going to say.
Mr. Zakaitis is getting his material, the approved material for the site from the Turnpike expansion between Allegheny Valley to the Irwin interchange. Those are the areas that he'll be taking his material from. Primarily, right now, it's going to be at the Plumboro area. Their work is generated because of traffic control in those later hours to be able to excavate those materials out. They have to be delivered somewhere, and thus he's asking for permission to haul it on site. In my discussion with him, he said that the materials would be dropped off along the frontage of Business 22 to stay as far away from Lilac as possible. The actual movement of the dirt has to be done with the approval of a geotech engineer. So those materials will be moved during the regular hours of
So
operation.
you're saying they will not get down into the bottom of the pit today, or till 4:30 in the morning?
That is correct.
Everything
The
will be done from Route 22?
Staying close to Route 22.
Okay. Now,
That's the information Mr. Zakaitis gave me.
okay, that's not what I understood today. Okay. Now, let's say we do approve that, okay? And all of a sudden, we get a lot of kickback from that. Now, Bob, can we go in and stop that and proceed to a different time?
Yes, you can. Mr. Zakaitis is asking to have a regulation amended for the purpose of accommodating him. If you decide that that's not working out well, you can certainly go back and say, hey, you know what, we let you do this, even though our rules don't permit it, but because there's impact, we're going to stop it. We're not
What
gonna
are
do it
our
anymore.
rules normally?
7 a.m. to 7 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And when does the construction take place?
The
On the
construction,
turnpike?
that is usually at nighttime where the lane's restricted so that they don't have as much
I understand.
congestion. So that's what he's trying to work with at not PennDOT, the
So
Turnpike
those
Commission.
vehicles will not leave Route 22?
I'm sorry?
The trucks delivering the dirt will not leave 22?
He's asking if they're going to, are they going to exit Duff Road or
Oh,
they're going to stay on?
that physically right now, there's no way for them to access Duff Road. They would have to be staying closer towards the William Penn Highway portion of the road.
I don't know. Okay.
Now, council, we could add we could add that as part of the amendment as well, that it is just from Business 22. We could add that as a condition.
Now, see,
And remove.
my discussion today with Mr. Hugus, we discussed the possibility of 7 PM to 11 PM. And if there was an issue from the folks on Lilac, then we could amend that somehow. But 4:30 in the morning, I mean, that's,
Even 7 to 12, maybe.
yeah, Ron, yeah.
Raise my hand, Linda talked.
Mr. Harvey, the floor is yours.
Don't raise your hand, Ron.
Yeah, don't raise your hand, that makes me talk.
I'm not trying to make a laughing.
No, no,
Because I really want to support you, but I happen to agree with Mr. Wilson. Did you ever hear the tailgates of those triaxles slam against the body after the load's dumped? It's going to echo all through that valley. And
And that tailgate slamming shut,
that's what I mean.
yeah.
Once
That might wake me up over an evergreen.
Once
I don't think so.
It ain't gonna wake you up.
I know.
How about the reverse alarms also?
Right.
That was mentioned. As far as I'm aware of, they won't be needing to do much of that.
You gotta put it in reverse.
No, but it'll be a minimal. And we're talking as far as traffic, from what I understand. We're not talking from Mr. Zakaitis' site to the turnpike, all lined up with trucks. We're looking from as much material that can be excavated from the turnpike. If he's hitting rock, whoever's doing the excavation there, if they're hitting rock, it's going to be less trucks coming through.
And that's what I was going to ask you. How many truckloads?
Anticipated roughly between 2 to 5 an hour.
Although being that we can shut it off, it might be worth it.
Yeah, and how many yards do you have to compensate for?
It's one, I don't have the plan.
152,000.
Yeah, 152.
So how many truckloads is that?
And how much does each truck carry?
But he's currently already brought a substantial amount of material on site.
A lot.
Well, wouldn't it be?
How much does each truck carry?
I'm doing some quick math.
That's why he's the engineer.
50,000 pounds, whatever it is.
Okay, I like your answer. 23
It's only
tons, she said.
13,000 truckloads.
How many?
13,000.
Oh,
Just something small.
geez, I thought it was maybe 14 or 15.
Give or take a couple trucks.
But you have to understand that number, but during the daylight hours, he will also be transporting dirt as well.
Oh.
And there are no restrictions, Mr. Hugus, are there any restrictions during the day on how many trucks or how much traffic or how many?
No restrictions.
No restrictions, as long as it's between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Okay.
Well, I'm from Missouri, you got to show me.
Mr. Poach.
Is there an opportunity for I agree with Tom and Steve, and the sound and what Ron mentioned as well as an issue. Is there a possibility that, number one, we talk to Tom, have you talked to the residents on Lilac yet? Or they don't know anything about
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, good. So, I didn't think so.
We were just going to surprise them at 4:30 something.
Yeah, that's what we need to not do, right. That's exactly what we don't need to do. So number one, can we, have a conversation, communicate that information with them? That's the first thing. Second item, is there not another option during those critical hours we talked about, to be able to stage the material somewhere else? I hate to ask people to move things twice. I understand the issue. We've had a number of projects in Monroeville where that's happened from, there'll be road grading and information, soil and all those things that have filled a number of places, including, Parkway and places along those lines. I understand where the process of doing that. Have that as a consideration as well.
I can check with Mr. Zakaitis. I don't have that answer for
Right,
you.
I don't expect you to see anything.
One of the things that we do have to take into consideration is with the reinforced slope. There's some material that cannot get wet. So if there's an opportunity to transport that, if they dump it somewhere else, it may come into conflict with the materials he's bringing in on site, which would hamper his continuing to move on.
Wouldn't that happen? Couldn't that happen even at the property?
It could, but they would at least be able to tarp it possibly, with the people there on site as they're dumping it, as opposed to taking it and just dumping it haphazardly somewhere else.
One just real quick comment. I just think maybe what you're saying, Mr. Sakaitis is willing to do this or possibly that. I think what Eric is saying is that when you meet with the residents, you reduce it to black and white, what you're really willing to do. Because again, put yourself in their shoes. If I'm sleeping at 4:30 in the morning, I don't want to hear dump trucks right in my...
Let me ask you, Greg.
Sure.
How long, if we would extend it from 7 PM to 4:30 in the AM, how long would it take to fill that void?
To be completely honest, I'm not sure, because what has to happen with the reinforced wall is the geogrid.
Right.
And that has to be done
Right.
strategically at a specific, so
So
that's
my
going to
point
slow
is,
down the
that's my
process.
point. My point is that if you go from 7 PM to 11 PM, or you go from, 7 AM to 11 PM, Paul, right? That's what we discussed. Okay, if you go from 7 AM to 11 PM, that's going to just take up, it's going to eliminate 5.5 hours each day, right? And will this be 5 days a week, 6 days a week?
I think we're only allowed to, we're not, Sundays prohibited, is that correct? I'm not sure. Is there any
I'm not, I don't think it's prohibited.
Okay.
I don't think the turnpike moves earth.
What?
I'm sorry?
I don't think
the
Sunday's
turnpike
prohibited. I think
moves
it's
earth
7
on
days a week.
Sundays.
7 days a week? Okay.
No, I think
Okay.
I've seen them work on
So
Sunday.
7 days a week, that's just going to require a few more truckloads from 7 AM to 11 PM. You're only losing 5.5 hours,
Okay,
okay?
that's per day.
So it's just going to take a few more truckloads at that point in time.
A few more days.
Huh?
More days, yes.
Yeah, more days, that's all.
Right.
Well, folks, we have some options here. We could change the times right now, tonight, and then vote on it on Tuesday.
We can't do that?
We could, yes. Or we could wait till Tuesday and make changes prior to voting.
Wait till Tuesday and,
Well, why don't you see if he can check into it and see what kind of
See what you can come back
changes he
with.
can make with it.
pardon me, I couldn't hear you, Ron.
I was saying, why don't we have him check into the type of changes he could make
Right, okay, good.
and come back
Yeah,
Tuesday?
Good idea.
Right, well, although, I mean, they are, currently they're 7 AM to 7 PM.
Right.
They're asking for more, so basically they're willing to
Well,
whatever
they're
we offer.
asking for,
an extra 5.5 hours.
well, no, actually, they're asking
for almost
for,
No, I'm sorry, yeah.
9
that's it.
hours.
Yeah, exactly, extra 9 hours,
yeah,
sorry.
they're asking for from 7 PM till 4:30 AM.
Right.
So you're talking about 10.5 hours.
I'll contact with Mr. Sakaitis.
Yeah.
They see where everybody's concerned.
Hopefully he was out of town, or he would have been here tonight. I can touch base with him, see what he says, any concessions or anything like that.
See if he has a solution.
Sure. And really, we want to, work with the residents as well as with council. The site has been laid vacant since I can recall. I started working in Monroeville back in '77, and driving by there and saying that thing will never be filled. And now I'm working on it.
Right. We certainly want to support your project, but we have
Sure.
to watch out for the residents.
We understand that.
Yeah, we're
Thank you.
excited about your project.
Very.
Very much.
Sure.
It's
Thank
just
you.
a matter of
Keeping them
the
running.
residents down below
Yeah.
need to be healthy enough to come up and enjoy your product.
Very good.
Thank you.
We'll be back to address this on Tuesday, the 10th.
Very good. And I also want to thank the staff, council, for the delays that we've been doing and the patience everybody's been helping us with.
Very good.
Thank you.
We're going to move over to our ordinances.
I think you have one more resolution.
Yeah, we got one more resolution.
I'm trying to get it done. Sorry. So one more resolution, resolution number 3, Mr. Little, sorry.
All right, resolution exonerating the real estate tax collector from the collection of uncollected taxes of 2017, and that number is $195,806, and signed by Mr. Pat Fulkerson, our tax collector, a housekeeping item that is done annually around this time of the year.
And then we're still going to go after those.
Yeah, it goes
Just
into
for
lien,
everybody's-
I think, in
Just so everybody's clear.
Ron, he put something, well, actually, it'll be until next year. People can still pay on it, but it would be, it would obviously go into the penalty fee. They can still pay on it, but I don't think it would go into the delinquency until 2019.
I gotta get out of here.
Very good. Any other questions, council?
No, thank you.
Okay, now we'll move over to our ordinances. Mr. Ratcher.
One ordinance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 1443, the Monroeville zoning ordinance as amended, to insert specific regulations relative to drive-in restaurants. And this is a matter that's been under discussion for some time relative to the ability to improve our regulations for traffic flow through drive-through restaurants.
Is this making sure they have a bypass lane?
Correct.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Which Starbucks didn't want to have.
Any comments, council?
Over here.
No.
Seeing none, we're going to move over to our reports of municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one item to comment on the vehicle use ordinance. Mrs. Gatos has been asking me to get this for her, and I thought I had a way to get it pretty quickly ready. The municipal staff converted the document for me, but as we found out, we had some problems with it. So it's going to take a little bit longer to get it ready. I'm hoping to have it by this coming Tuesday, or next Tuesday, for the regular meeting. But it's just, I'd hoped to have it tonight, and I'd promised it to Mrs. Gatos tonight, so I apologize, and it's back to the drawing board.
Okay, and we will not be voting, even if it is here on Tuesday,
No,
we will not
no.
be voting on that on
No,
Tuesday.
correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other comments for this evening, Mr. Ratcher?
No, none, thank you.
Mr. Little.
Okay, I have 3 items, but I'm only going to mention about the first one, the Banner Community. The other 2, I'm going to leave, for the sake of brevity in the meeting here, I'll leave till Tuesday evening, if that's okay with council.
Yes.
I kind of thought so. All right, the Banner Community, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Ratcher attended a luncheon where we received, for our second
May I
and third...
present the certificate, Mr. Little?
If you want to read it?
Tuesday.
I'm not going to read it.
Do it on Tuesday.
I just like to
You want
present
me to
it.
do this on, I thought maybe...
No, let's do it on
No.
Tuesday.
Sure, no
Tuesday.
problem. We'll do it Tuesday, we'll do all 3 on Tuesday.
That was,
We'll have
that
to have
was,
a
that was my final,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tom,
Okay.
do it on
Goodbye.
Tuesday.
Let's steal your thunder.
Do it on Tuesday, Tom.
All right, Tuesday.
I would just like to thank
Oh,
the members and staff of our fine municipality of Monroeville,
shoot me.
the county of Allegheny County, Rich Fitzgerald County Executive,
He's giving me
recognized our community with the citation of the 2018 Banner Community, which we were awarded last year. And council, our staff, and our road crews, and everybody else that works for the municipality, we could not have done it without you.
And
Thank
there's
you
a
very
picture
much.
of, there you go, Tom, you're on the
Oh, there
left-hand
you
side
go,
up there.
yeah.
Looking good, Tom.
Okay, Mr. Ratcher's in the
Handsome
same in the
guys
back.
sitting
No, I tried to get out of that
Here,
picture.
pass
No, no, you're in there,
Oh,
you're in
God,
there.
Photoshop that.
Very good.
Yeah, they have a nice event down there, and, you know.
Well, once again, kudos to the staff and everyone
Yes.
involved.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Little, do you have any other comments this evening?
No, no other comments, no.
Mr. Hugus, any comments for this evening?
I just want to answer Mr. Harvey's question real quick.
Sure.
This is from the PA One Call website. How deep must I dig before I am required to call? If you are digging with powered equipment, the person operating the equipment must call. It does not matter how deep you are digging or where you're digging within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but it just references powered equipment. It doesn't say by hand. Answer your question, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rock, any comments this evening?
Nothing.
Nothing, thank you.
Let's give us some.
Okay, moving over to our reports of council. Mrs. Gatos.
All right, I'll talk fast.
Oh, Court.
Oh, stop. Senior Center, that's all I'm going to talk about. It's very important. Bingo is this Saturday, 1 o'clock, $500 jackpot. What you don't know is that if you're over 18, you can still go. You don't have to be a senior, over 18. All these kids could use money. Go try and get some. Give it a whirl. Spaghetti Festival is Wednesday, April 18th at 12 p.m. $6 for a member, $7 for a guest. Spaghetti, meatball, salad, garlic bread, dessert, plus entertainment. The Do-Woo Band. Geez, Bel Air's Do-Woo Band. You can't go anywhere and eat lunch for that kind of money. So and it's all really, really good. Now, for the big gamblers in you, is the Meadows Casino trip is Thursday, April 19th. The bus will leave at 9, return at 5. The cost is $25 a person, but you get the transportation, the tip to the driver, $15 in slot play, and a $5 food voucher. That's like getting there for free. So, there you go. That's everything I'll have for tonight.
Very good. Mr. Poach.
We'll have some more information from the Chamber. They didn't meet this past month due to the holiday.
The Convention Visitors Bureau.
Convention Bureau. I don't know what I just said. Too tired. I apologize to do that. And then we have some information from the library. I think Director Tim, did she not, Nicole, leave you the...
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll have to distribute...
I'll put this in council's packets.
And then we'll have the rest to distribute on
So they'll have it in
Tuesday
their
night.
packets,
Yeah, that's
okay?
right. Okay. That's all for now. Thank you.
Mr. Harvey.
I just wanted to let everybody know, if you were interested, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Transportation Committee is having hearings tomorrow on the police radar bill. It's actually probably going to be televised. Representative Markozik advised me that there's nothing else going on the Hill, so he believes it'll be on the cable TV. And he also requested me to send a letter in support of that bill, which I did, and I gave a copy to the chief of police. And he acknowledged me today that he got it and was going to give it to the chairman of the Transportation Committee. And the only other thing I want to bring up tonight was I was wondering if Mr. Poach ever got his financial figures on the costs of all the right-to-know requests, and if you don't want to talk about it tonight, you can.
We're still, just part of it too, I told Mr. Sedlak, in response to information we'd received last time too, and that I'd also had, we're going to meet with, try to get an appointment with Senator Brewster also and his committee information and data points as well. So we're still moving forward with it. We don't have anything to report on it further.
Okay, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Aracinko. Any
Nothing,
comments this evening?
I'll do more, my report on Tuesday.
Mr. Wilson.
I'm good.
Very good.
Where's Mr. Duncan?
And I'll just, Mr. Duncan had to step out.
I was going to say, I can't see behind Greg. Okay.
And I'll just close real quickly, just for something to consider with council. We moved our Citizens Night or agenda setting meeting to tonight, Tuesday. And then we'll have a regular council meeting 1 week from today, Tuesday. Something to think about over the next 7 days. This is a format we could switch to. There's nothing in our home rule charter that says we can't do this, but if we wanted to maybe meet on our work session on the first Tuesday of the month, and then our regular council meeting on the second Tuesday of the month, it's an option. Just throwing that out there because 1 week gives us more time to talk to staff, to contact companies, and we've certainly noticed what some of the questions that come out, and sometimes it's difficult between a Thursday, 3 work days until the Tuesday meeting. So something to consider as we move forward, something we could always change. And with that, I will seek a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you and good night.